We will be starting the program in just a few minutes. If you can go back to your seats, we'd really appreciate it. We will be starting the program in just a few minutes. If you can go back to your seats, that would be really appreciated. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the second half of this program. I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. As for myself, I did go up to some of you and just, was really very excited to finally meet some of you in person. We've seen you so much because we've been doing the art cards, and we see your faces because of the art cards that we have to work on, and just meeting you and seeing you in Zoom as well. But meeting you all in person is quite a different story. So sometimes I'm sorry, some of you, I look at you and I'm smiling from ear to ear. You're probably thinking, why is she smiling creepily like that? But it's really only because I'm happy to be here in Manila and happy, very, very happy to meet you all in person. Okay, so we have one keynote speaker who recorded his message, and he's going to share that with us in just a little bit. He is going to talk to us about the next phase for HIMS PH. Very interesting because they are actually our co-presenters in this 3-day event. We really want to thank DICT for being our co-presenters and making this event possible. So please continue to enjoy your lunch as we listen to his message, and please just enjoy the rest of this time, reconnecting, networking with other people. But we can also listen in to Secretary Ivan John Uy, the DICT Secretary.
To the Healthcare Information Management Services Association of the Philippines officers, represented by President Vincent Remo, Chairman Maria Cristina Coronel, Vice President Gail Macapagal, and all the trustees. Our industry leaders, DIC representatives, fellow public servants, organizers, and all the delegates joining both virtually and face-to-face. A pleasant morning. The DICT annually looks forward to supporting the HIMSCON, or the Healthcare Information Management Services Conference, as it brings together top-notch HIMS players such as industry experts, healthcare IT, and clinical and documentation service providers, local and international markets, and government representatives to tackle the most crucial information, emergent trends in the HIMS industry, and potential ways forward. HIMSCON 2020 and 2021 highlighted the local and global trends affecting the industry and how the pandemic changed the HIMS business process management landscape. This year, we steered the focus towards reimagining and recalibrating the solutions and services that the Philippine HIMS sector can offer to the country and the world. As we do this, the IT BPM Industry Roadmap 2028 serves as our blueprint in customizing strategies and implementing action plans according to the needs of the sector. In 6 years, the IT BPM sector is projected to generate 59 billion US dollars in revenues and an additional 1.1 million jobs. Needless to say, the next 6 years will be very promising. To make such an aggressive scenario reality, this will require strategic collaboration from all of us. At the DICT, we aim to support the HIMS industry in several ways in line with the acceleration pillars outlined in the roadmap, namely government support, talent development, infrastructure expansion and marketing, and brand repositioning. We are in collaboration with policymakers and even the regional offices and councils to ensure that the enabling legal frameworks and mechanisms are in place for a more business-friendly environment for both our local and international investors. We also support the continuous implementation of flexible working arrangements and the establishment of suitable working conditions for our local talents. If businesses dedicate more time and resources in understanding employee journey and experience and in looking after employee welfare, our local talents will feel supported and valued, and will also put significant value in the quality of the work that they do and the high value experience services they deliver to clients. Also, cybersecurity remains one of our major priorities at the DICT. The healthcare IT industry deals with an abundance of sensitive data and information. For this, we must ensure that security measures are in place to safeguard the rights and information of our industry's practitioners and clients against cybercrimes. This will entail a strong national policy on cyber literacy, proper implementation of cybersecurity rules and data privacy laws, and more funding or investments in cyber protection as well as investigation. Since last year, the ICT has been working on the adoption of cybersecurity standards that would mitigate or prevent cyber attacks by reducing the risks of ICT equipment and critical assets. Moreover, the Cybersecurity Office of the DICT is looking at partnering with both public and private sectors and institutions in conducting its national cybersecurity research and development program that may include malware analysis, cryptography research, system vulnerabilities, and disruptive technology, among others. Over the years, the HIMS industry has observed an increasing demand for high-value niche skills due to rapid digital transformation, particularly in the fields of data science and analytics, artificial intelligence, and process automation. This opened up a range of possibilities on what more can be done by our talents and how the country can position itself in the healthcare IT sphere. As technology evolves, the industry and our talents will evolve with it. The industry must embrace growth and take advantage of the long-term benefits that these can have on customer experience, satisfaction, loyalty, and the wider healthcare industry. Emergent technologies will not deem humans irrelevant. Instead, the industry will need technologically adept, educated, and skilled talents. We must also encourage and empower our local talents to use these technologies as tools and match these with personalized service to drive operational efficiency and provide value-based care to their clients. Our current and future workforce must develop digital health literacy. Reskilling and upskilling the rich talent pool in the Philippines through in-service training programs must be prioritized. And to help solve the jobs and skills mismatch in the industry and help the Filipino local talents improve their qualifications and employability for the future economy, we also have the Philippine Skills Framework. This aims to develop sector-specific skills frameworks that will serve as a guide in enhancing the competencies of the country's workers in the select IT BPM industries, especially on healthcare information management. In terms of infrastructure expansion, the ICT continues to fulfill this major mandate of promoting the development and expansion of enabling infrastructure for IT BPM services in both Manila and the countryside. And we have several programs for this. The Broadband ng Masa program that looks to develop the country's digital infrastructure with the entry of new players also in the digital ecosystem and the enhancement of our current players' service delivery. We can expect our internet situation to also improve increasingly. Installation of free Wi-Fi hubs will be much easier and faster as well. Likewise, Filipinos will also have an easier and faster access to more learning and working opportunities. There is a lot of potential in the countryside, and we just have to get the associations and local government units more involved to guide policymakers and investors get a better understanding of the opportunities that the IT BPM industry offers. We will intensify our Digital Cities program and improve data generation efforts in partnership with our LGUs and the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines. One of our support for the HIMS industry this year is the conduct of the HIMSCON 2022. We also aim to develop the HIMS aggregator website that will consolidate data on local and global developments in HIMS, disseminate high-value HIMS research and other content, and help engage global investors. We have been supporting the international delegation of the Philippines in the HIMS towards the Global Health Conference and Exhibition, and we hope that we could do the same for 2023 and moving forward. Once more, congratulations to HIMAP for this remarkable hybrid event. It is our delight to co-present HIMSCON 2022 with you. Let us continue to work together in promoting the HIMS industry to potential markets around the globe and in strengthening the positioning of the Philippines as a leading HIMS destination. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.
Okay, thank you to Mr. Ivan John Uy from the DICT. He is our current DICT secretary. So he couldn't join us today, but I'm really happy that he was able to give us that pre-recorded message because we really want to thank them. This would not have been possible had HIMAP and DICT not worked together. Again, this is proof that when government and private, come and work together for the Filipino people, amazing things can happen. Okay, up next, we have something that's actually historical as well. We're going to do the presentation of HIMS 2028 roadmap of IBPAP, of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part of the program. Yes? Next part of the program. Okay, great. Moving on. Well, we'll have this historical event after the plenary discussion then. So the plenary discussion we have our next plenary speaker, rather. He is going to talk about the future of medical coding, certification, and compliance, moving past the credentialing challenges of COVID-19. He is the Senior Vice President of AAPC International, Mr. Daniel Schwabach.
Okay, just give me 1 second here. I thought I had 20 more minutes. Let me load up my stuff on my computer real quick. Great. Thanks, everybody. I'm excited for the opportunity to be here today and to be able to talk with you. It's always fun to be able to come to the Philippines. The people here are just so awesome. So it's always a pleasure to come visit. As was mentioned today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of medical coding and certifications and compliance. Next one. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go over quite a bit of data and information here, and I've got about 20 minutes, so I'm going to move at a pretty steady clip so I can try to cover everything that I'd like to cover. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the growth trends and market outlook, particularly for medical coding. So this gives you kind of a snapshot of the U.S. marketplace in terms of the population of medical coders. There's about 480,000 coders. About 40% of that are kind of fall into the inpatient category and about 60% into the outpatient sector. And if you break that down more into roles, about 200,000 are in the coding roles, another 200,000 in billing type of roles, and then about 70,000 are in auditing type of roles and other roles. So this gives you, of that kind of 480,000 coders in the U.S. marketplace, this represents AAPC's membership globally. So right now we have about 235,000 members. And that represents about a 7% compounded annual growth rate over about the last 12 years. You can see by the trend line, it's been pretty consistent growth. If we break that down specifically to the U.S. market itself, we had about 99,000 members in 2010, and then today that's approached about 180,000 members. And that represents about a 5% compounded annual growth rate. Then if you look at India, that's the next biggest market segment. Today there's about 45,000 coders in the India marketplace. Just in 2010 they had about 900. So that's about a 40% compounded annual growth rate over the last 12 years. And you can see with the dotted line there, we've had an uptick in the last 2 years. That growth rate has jumped to about 60%. And there's probably a lot of factors for that. I'm not exactly sure, but that's a notable trend where we've seen an increase in coders coming into that marketplace. So Philippines as well, if you look at the comparison there, currently there's about 4,500 medical coders in the Philippines market. That's about a 50% compounded annual growth rate for the last 12 years. Very similar pattern to India in terms of we've seen a notable about a 60% increase in growth rates over the last 2 years. You can see though in comparison, you guys are about a tenth of the size of the India marketplace as far as medical coders. This is an interesting point here I wanted to point out to you guys. So as far as the medical coders, if you break out the demographics, you can see how that kind of looks. The key point here is that 40% of the current medical coders are 55 years or older. And so we've got a huge population that's nearing retirement or kind of moving into that phase. That represents about 90,000 medical coders that in the next 5 to 10 years will be exiting the marketplace. I wanted to highlight some of the drivers impacting the demand for medical coding. There's really kind of 4 key things here. First off, it's the medical claims volume. Right now we do about 7 billion claims in the US marketplace. You can see kind of how that breaks out, the percentages. Also the claims that require coding, that's generally about 90 to 97% of those claims need to be coded. And then medical coder productivity is certainly something that drives that as well. And then retention rates. So those are kind of the four key things that drive demand for coding. Retention rates right now are about 90% retention. If we look at the medical claims volume trends, so today, as I mentioned, about 7 billion. Back in 2015, it was 5.7. Right now, we estimate that it'll be about a 2.3% annual growth rate for about the next 7 years. That's going to translate into about a 20% increase in claims volume by 2030. So we'll be at about 8.4 billion claims at that point. And point out here, there's a number of things that drive that. The baby boomer population, technology spurring new utilization, those kind of things. Now, if we look at the offshoring trends as it relates to the claims volume here, so back in 2015, about 28% of those claims were offshored. Today, it's about 35%, and we project that by 2030, it'll be about 50-50. So half of those claims will be coded offshore, which is about 4.2 billion claims, and that represents a market, a TAM market size of about $36 billion US. So I want to talk for a minute just about the technology impacts and what that may look like on medical coding as well. So I want to point out automation, and so there's AI and there's computer-assisted coding, and I just want to make a differentiation here because a lot of times these terms get used interchangeably, and in my perspective, they're two totally different things. So full automation is really where AI comes into play, and that's really looking to automate the process and remove human from that process, whereas computer-assisted coding is really, I would refer to as more partial automation, and that's really a tool that assists the coders in their jobs, but it's not meant to remove coders or individuals from those transactions. And then the technology impact scale, I won't spend much time on this, I think it's pretty intuitive, but the main point here is that the simpler cases in medical coding are cases that are easier to automate, easier to get productivity around computer-assisted coding. The harder type of cases become more difficult, so there's a whole spectrum in between that relates to kind of technology adoption and how efficient it can be. So if we look at the technology impact, this is a 5-year outlook, and this is a study that we commissioned with McKinsey to look at the marketplace. But if you look at AI, which is the attempt to do full automation, right now, of those 7 billion claims, we believe that about 25% of those claims have the ability to be high quality automated. And you can see kind of the breakout there of what that looks like. Again, the more complex claims, not as much automation. Emergency departments, some of those other simpler things, easier automation. To date, only about 2% of claims have been impacted by automation, and we project, again, over the next 5 years, that's not going to change much, maybe 2 to 3% of claims. If we look at it from a computer-assisted coding standpoint, of the claims that are out there, about 65% of claims have the potential to have productivity gains related to use of computer-assisted coding. Again, you can see the more kind of detailed breakout of how that looks, the type of claims that would be impacted. We did a study, every year we do a study with, in the United States with all of our members in the organization, and that survey indicated that only about 45% of organizations are currently using some form of computer-assisted coding tools. We think in about the next 5 years that'll increase to about 80%, and then within 5 years about 20% of the total, of that 65% of claims, about 25% of those will have some form of computer-assisted coding adoption. So if I kind of summarize what all that data means and try to pull that together, basically, again, the shift to offshoring is going to continue. It'll accelerate. We believe in the next few years it'll reach 50% of claims. Automation is going to have a very minimal impact in terms of the need for medical coders in their job roles. Computer-assisted coding technology in the next 5 years, again, about 25% of claims will be impacted, and about 80% adoption of the technology in organizations. Also, with the tech enablement going on, that's going to require coders to really focus on higher level engagement. So they're going to need to skill up to handle more complex cases. Their roles are going to change somewhat from what it is today, which is kind of heads down coding. And the other key point here is the global shortage right now of medical coders is going to be exacerbated really by two things. One is the increase in the claims volume that I talked about, and then also with the aging population that's going to be coming out in the next few years. So we're basically estimating in the near future about a shortage of 110,000 medical coders that will need to be replaced in the marketplace there. And the current automation and computer-assisted coding is not going to keep up with that. So there will continue to be a deficit that needs to be filled from individuals. So I want to talk for a few minutes about certification here. If we look at certification, I want to address kind of what certification is and what it isn't. So right now, part of that annual survey we did, about 87% of organizations require certification. And I know you guys are just as aware of that because most of your clients also require that your staff are certified. So there's wide, broad adoption of certification. But I think it's important to kind of point out what it is, because I often hear the statement from a lot of folks that say, well, so-and-so just got their certification, but they still don't know how to code, right? And a lot of you have probably said that, and I see a lot of heads kind of shaking. So first off, really, from our perspective, certification is three things. One is to kind of demonstrate a commitment to professionalism. And I think we all can agree that professionalism is critical in the industry here. And then second, it's really to establish and promote kind of a minimum baseline of standards, the basic job competencies, and then to validate that they have the skill sets and knowledge to do that. If we talk about what certification isn't, so there's some shortfalls in terms of what certification does or doesn't do. So first off, certification is not a good mechanism to demonstrate competency throughout time, right? It only measures somebody's competency. So if you have a coder who was certified 20 years ago, that's not necessarily a good barometer if they're a good coder now, if they've kept up with their skills. Another shortfall with is again, certification just measures a baseline competency rather than a broader set of job skills. It's really intended to say, do you know how to code, and do you know the basics of that? But it's like I kind of liken it to an attorney, somebody who finishes law school and passes the bar. They understand the fundamentals of law, but if you're going to be tried on murder charges, you're probably not going to have an attorney who just passed the bar because they don't have that practical experience and practical knowledge. And then the last kind of shortfall or deficiency with certifications, it's not a good measure of skill maintenance. So again, that's really kind of more what continuing education and professional development is intended to do. But to be honest with you, what we see a lot of times is people they want to check the box. How do I get my free CEUs? And so there's no good way to measure if people are really maintaining and developing their skill sets after certification. So I'm not basically trying to imply that certification is not important here, especially coming from APC, which is what we do. We still think certification is really important. But I think what the industry is looking at is trying to acknowledge there's some gaps here, and how do we fill that? And so there's a lot of talk right now about how the certification process is likely going to change and be restructured in the near future. So there's a few things behind what's kind of driving that. First off, there's a lot more increasing scrutiny over fraud, waste, and abuse, and how to curtail that. Secondly, we know that there's growing financial risk linked to the quality of your workers and their output. We certainly need to be able to upskill workers in lieu of automation. And then how do we reduce the investment time and money that it takes to get people production ready rather than just a type of certification. So where certifications are really moving to help address some of these things is we're looking at adoption of tier systems, which can better demonstrate different competency levels, whether it's an intermediate, beginner, advanced. We're also looking at how do we marry up the theoretical aspect of coding and how you do things versus the actual production-ready skills. And then also the ability to monitor competency throughout somebody's professional career and make sure that they're maintaining their skills. So this is to kind of give you a framework. This is not something set in stone, but this is to give you a framework of discussions that are going on within the industry, with AAPC, with other organizations in the industry at whole. But what we're looking at is a framework that may look something like this, where you still have a core certification, which is really, again, it's intended to be that industry baseline of knowledge and fundamental understanding of things. So CPC will use that as the example. So that's the process where you step into certification. But once you obtain that initial baseline, it's then really moving into experiential training, which is going to be more intensive, and that's really more production type of training. And that will be linked to micro-learning. So what happens is they'll go through and do a lot of production coding. There's micro-learning attached to that. So as coders get errors and things and miss stuff, there's things that link back, little 2 or 3 minute snippets of training that tell them exactly, how to fix those problems, so we can speed up the training process and speed up their accuracy. And then that will be measured with what's called competency badging. So basically, they'll be able to go get badges, which will assess them against production capabilities. And that may be badges that, maybe it's a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or we don't know what that may or may not look like yet, and it may be specialty-based as well. And then there may also be requirements to maintain those badges, so you can know that they're maintaining their skill sets. So again, this is just one concept that's being talked about in the way that we may, some certifications may change over time here. Now I want to talk about, just for a minute, the future of compliance and what that looks like. And when I'm talking about compliance, I'm talking more about medical billing and coding type of compliance, not necessarily HIPAA compliance. As most of you are probably aware, there's been a lot of recent headline in news. The New York Post published an article about fraud, waste, and abuse, particularly with the Medicare Advantage programs. So that's a lot of buzz going on with that right now. In their article, what they had mentioned, so if you've looked at the MedPAC report that came out in March, they estimated that the fraud related to this is about $12 to $25 billion in overpayments from inappropriate coding. And this just gives you comparison on the left of what that dollar amount looks like compared to some of the budgets of U.S. departments. So it's bigger than NASA, it's bigger than the Environmental Protection Agency. So it's large dollars here that we're talking about. Also, they pointed out that are currently either being investigated or alleged for some level of fraud. So data points here, again, this is tied to our annual survey that we do with organizations, but related to compliance type of things. So when we surveyed organizations about if they perform annual compliance assessments, we've had a notable uptick this year. About 87% of organizations do. That's a 7% increase from last year. And organizations utilizing software to help them in their assessment of compliance, we had a massive change there, 67%. So that's 22% increase from the year prior. So obviously, it's a concern to folks, and they're starting to make investments to try to address that. Related to use of audit software, about 84% of the industry use some kind of software to audit the coding practices, and that's up 5% from the year prior. If you look at the biggest concern that organizations have around compliance is that related to medical billing and coding activities. You can see here on the left, a lot of the various categories are related to that. Where you guys may also be interested is, as it relates to evaluating third parties and adopting them, by far the biggest criteria was the quality of coding. So that's a big concern, is the accuracy and quality there, 78% compared to all other things. So when a lot of U.S. organizations are looking at how they make judgments on outsourcing, who they do it to, that's a huge consideration for them. And no wonder that is, because if you look at the major contributors in the fraud, waste, and abuse cases, these are kind of the 4 key factors. It again all ties back to a lot of the medical coding and billing practices. So that's naturally what organizations are focused on and concerned with. You go to the next slide. Okay. And then currently, so there's a lot of programs we're all probably familiar with trying to curb fraud, waste, and abuse. We have the False Claims Act, anti-kickback statutes, the RAC audits, the OIG compliance programs, all these various things. The reality, though, is that they're not as effective as I think everybody would like. And so currently the most effective way to curb fraud is through whistleblower cases. And there's a big financial incentive there. Whistleblowers can get 15 to 30% of what's reclaimed in a case, so there's a huge financial motivation. The government's actually looking at increasing that to create even more financial motivation. But the reality is a lot of these programs aren't necessarily doing what we need to, and there needs to be something done a little bit different. So future measures, what they're looking at doing is a couple of things, and I can't speak in depth to these because they're beyond my knowledge base, but blockchain solutions, AI and analytics and big data. So these are all a lot of things that are coming into play to help curb the industry practice, fraud, waste, and abuse. The organizational accreditation is one that I did want to highlight, though, because that's one that we're in active discussions with right now and the industry is looking at. And really, with the organizational accreditation, it's a matter of, you think Joint Commission, which does accreditation at organization level for clinical quality. This would be something similar where organizations may have to come in and get accredited from a billing compliance perspective and making sure they're adopting best practices. So there's a lot of discussion going on with organizations about putting a framework together for accreditation and then requiring organizations to go through an accreditation process. So anyways, just want to highlight that. That may be something to look for in the future. Anyways, I'm out of time, and that was pretty much the bulk of the information. Hopefully you were able to find some of that useful to you. And again, thanks for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel Schwabach, for that. He spoke to us about the future of medical coding, so I hope that was educational for all of us, So how can we line up our businesses, our people, so that we can make sure we are in line with the future of coding for our country? Okay, up next, this is something that is actually quite historical for us, and aren't we lucky that we're here today to witness that? I'd like to call on the president of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines to be presenting to us the HIMSS 2028 roadmap of IBPAP. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome on stage Mr. Jack Madrid.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a prepared speech, but I want to congratulate everyone here and led by my friend Vince on a most successful and really well-organized HIMSCON. So I am glad that you also decided, as IBPAP did, to do a hybrid conference, 2 days virtual and 1 day face-to-face. There is nothing quite like the energy of a face-to-face meeting, and it's great to be here and meet all of you. This is a seminal year in the IT BPM industry for our country, and that is because, well, not just because of the challenges that we had to navigate together in fighting for the future of work and the ability for our employees to work in location-independent workspaces. Although that was an important milestone, it is also a very critical. It was also a very critical year because we launched our country IT BPM roadmap in September, and we in IBPAP, with our very valued partner associations, including HIMAP, have a new and renewed blueprint for how we will achieve our goals and overcome the challenges towards creating even more jobs for Filipinos, since we are now the biggest industry in terms of job generation. We will end the year as an industry with 1.56 million jobs for Filipinos. finally surpassing the 30 billion US dollar billion US dollars mark. I think we will end up north of 31, but much work needs to be done because at the end of 2028, our roadmap has a big, ambitious goal of adding over 1 million new jobs for the Philippines. And that's only direct jobs. There is also a multiplier effect because for every new job for a Filipino in our industry, we have a multiplier effect of over 2. So we're really, we are really going to become an even more indispensable pillar of the economy. Because if we achieve all of that by the end of 2028, we will be 2.5 million strong with almost 60 billion in revenue contribution. And that is 8.5% of the nation's GDP. So who doesn't want that to happen? Now, for HIMAP, one of the brightest stars of the industry, we are poised to grow to almost 300,000 jobs by the end of 2028. That's adding 125,000 to the existing 160,000, if my mathematics is correct. That is a very impressive growth, and you are also going to more than double your revenue contribution. So I commit the full support of IBPAP with HIMAP. And again, I want to congratulate everyone here for such a well-run event. I've learned a lot just by listening to you all and how well you've organized this. So that is all I have to say. But I think we have a ceremonial turnover.
Yes, we do. First off, belated happy birthday to you, Jack Madrid. In fact, I was kidding. We have our very own Jack Ma in our industry. Jack Madrid. Okay, we will now proceed with the turnover ceremonies of the HIMSS 2028 roadmap from IBPAP to HIMAP to be received by, of course, the chairman, Maria Cristina, or we all know her as Ms. Ben Coronel, the senior advisor of Point West, to join us on stage. To be joined by the president of HIMAP as well, Vincent Remo. He is also the vice president of Advanced World Solutions. Vice President and Country Director of DynaQuest, Ms. Gail Macapagal, will also join us on stage. Of course, let's not forget, I've been wanting to meet her secretly, Ms. Judy Weisenhut, the President of JBW Managed Services. She is also the Treasurer. And, of course, Ms. Lara Cuesta. Is she here? Ms. Lara Cuesta? And Anshum Sinha, the COO of Sheer Water Health. We'll just have a photo opportunity with you. Let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for these powerful people who are on stage right now. And of course, to do the ceremonial acceptance, we'll also give the mic to Mr. Vincent Remo.
Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for being here, both live and for those attending virtually. Thank you very much for coming, and I'd like to thank our good friend Jack from IBPAP. I know he's very, very busy, but gave this time for us today, and you'll see him still after in another session. But at this time, I'd like to somehow thank him again and accept the roadmap that he has given us. We've been part of this as HIMAP. We've been part of the journey towards the 2028 roadmap, and we will humbly accept as well the challenge of doubling our size in the next 6 years. with HIMAP member companies doing what they do best, and having fun while doing it, I know that this will be achievable. So again, thank you very much, Jack, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much to our board of trustees. Thank you very much. All right, there you have it, folks. Oh, I told you it was going to be a really eventful morning, and it did not disappoint. We'd also remind everybody, by the way, that we do have that raffle happening at the awards night later on. To qualify for the raffle, I'd like to encourage you to drop off your business cards just at the entrance where you see the water. Where you replenish your water, there's a fish bowl over there. Go ahead and drop your business cards to qualify for the raffle happening tonight, okay? If you don't have a business card for some reason, you left it in your car, in your home, that's fine. You can write it down in a piece of paper. We're not going to be strict. Put in your company. We want to get in touch with you and your number as well. And we will make sure that you are part of the raffle happening tonight. Something we can all look forward to, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on to our next plenary speaker. I won't take too much of your time. She is the SVP Human Resources of Sheer Water Health, and she will also talk to us about managing the new breed of HIMS talent. Let's all please welcome Miss Josefina Cruz.
Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon. Oh, I can hear. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, in the last 2 days, we talk about talent shortage. We talk about talent gap. My HR colleagues from the different organizations talk about the issues of talent management or the shortage in our labor market. And this time, I'll be talking about how to manage our talents in the healthcare industry. Now, but prior to that, I'd like to tell you a little bit of a fairy tale story. Why fairy tale? Because it starts with once upon a time. Once upon a time, as an HR practitioner, I've been in the business for more than 2 decades. I won't tell you how long that is. When I ask employees, what makes you wake up in the morning and be motivated to go to work? Initially, I know right away what will be the answer to that. It's very, very predictable, right? You will hear loyalty, you will hear culture, and those kind of stuff. But that was once upon a time in a far away land. But then COVID-19 has changed drastically everything. The world has shifted and has changed. It continues to evolve. As employees and employers, we did a rapid adjustment, right? So the complexities of the new world has actually impacted, we all know that impacted the business sectors, including the healthcare sector. And HR organization-wide perspective, one of the major challenges is maintaining our people. That's talent management, apart from the shortage. People are leaving. What can we do to keep them, stay with us? And what is the reason why they are leaving? We don't even know. Let's go to the data. Next slide, please. Good thing I'm not doing the remote. I have divided it into 3 parts. One is understanding the talent drivers. We need to understand first our talents. What drives them? What motivates them? What do they think right now? Second, what should we do as an industry in healthcare? Third, we will share best practices in our company at Sheerwater Health. Next slide, please. Let's proceed with understanding the talent drivers. Next slide. Now, there's really a lot of research done, but I chose this one, which is from Price Waterhouse. This one shows about the Global Workforce Hopes and Fears Survey. That was July 2022. What they did, in the midst of the pandemic, they did a survey of 18,000 workforce globally. And what did they find out? They found out that people are rethinking about their lives. Understandably, because of the threat of the COVID, everyone is reassessing, rethinking, what is my priority? But their priority on the top list is work. That's number one. Now, let's look at, as they say, survey saying, 57% only are satisfied with the job. It doesn't automatically mean that they are leaving, but they are unsatisfied. One-third plan to ask for a raise in the next 12 months, and one-half plan to ask for a promotion in the next 12 months. I see some of you smiling. You don't need to wait for 12 months. I'm sure you're already experiencing it, right? Isn't it? Now, one out of 5 intend to switch to a new employer. If I'm good at math, if you have 1,000 employees, that's equivalent to 200. Correct? Now, it also says that 71% of the population surveyed here are leaving or intending to leave their jobs simply because of the pay. That's the number one driver. Next slide, please. We can go to the next. Now, this one, we were talking about people who are in the organization, and this one is how can you attract people. So LinkedIn said that there are 3 priorities of candidates when they move out, and when, these are the things that we need to think when we attract them. Number 1 is work-life balance. Second is compensation and benefits, and third, colleagues and culture. I love the third one because it's non-economic. The first one is work-life balance. We all know that the workforce is exhausted, they're tired, so they want to prioritize the work-life balance. That's the first group of people here. But according to the survey, there is a second one, which is they're not burnt out, but they realize that the work right now can provide them options. They have flexibility options. They can work anywhere at the time that they want and how. It's now more of, I can ask, it can be provided, and it can work, right? So that's why it's number 1 for them. Secondly is compensation and benefits. I've been in the business for, again, quite some time, and it has always been part of it. It's always like a main dish. It's like our rice, only rice. It's always there. So compensation and benefits are always part and parcel. It will never go away. It goes only up and down, but it's always there. The third one, colleagues and culture. I said I love it because, again, it's non-economic. As an organization, as an HR, that means we have the opportunity to do something, like, on top of everything that were said here. We can still work on the culture that we have, our EVP, and our colleagues as well. Okay, let's move to the next. Now, the old way of working won't work anymore. As we say, employees are now at the driver's seat. So what should we do as an industry? Next slide, please. Now, I won't overwhelm you with this. This is more of just a diagram, just to show how competitive the market is. It's more like a SWOT. So as you can see here in the middle, we have a high competitive rivalry because of the large number of healthcare that we have. Now, there are players coming in. Low, medium, there are those that are not full healthcare, but somehow eat a part of our talent market pie. So on the left side, you can see that there is a high bargaining power of talents. So they are well aware that they are now at the job seekers domain. Wages are increasing so high that the stiff competition is driving it. And they have the bargaining power to ask for more. And they can get it. Gone are the days, again, once upon a time, when when employees are leaving, and I will see, some reasons where they will say, I know you have already eaten. Some would say LBM, and you all know that it's looking for better management. They will take a leave, and you will identify right away that they will be leaving us. But now, they can do an interview in an hour, virtually. You won't even know. And you won't even notice. By tomorrow, they already have an offer and they're giving a resignation. That's how fast companies are working right now, right? Next, please. Now, the way forward. What we're saying is, the S is missing. First is, if employees are rethinking, reassessing, we ourselves as employers or organizations will also have to do our rethinking. We have to reassess. What is our employee value proposition? What is our total employment value? We don't really need to change our mission, vision, and philosophy, or our values. These are the DNA of our organization. We don't need to change that. But we have to reassess and rethink. The question is, and I loved it, I got it somewhere, is your organization selling what is attractive to the employees? So I think that's the question right now. What attracts them? Second, you can do redesigning. If there's such a thing as a great attrition, great resignation, there is such a thing as a great renegotiation, right? So you can do redesigning as well. But you have to make sure that it is relevant to your people. Hear them out. Voices matter. Right now, you don't need to wait for 1 year to do an annual survey. Actually, some of the companies are doing it on a day-to-day basis. Are you happy? You get the emoticon, etc. And somebody from the HR will reach out to that person and ask. That's how fast we should do it. Because again, our employees think fast, and the offer is actually at the door already. Okay, next, please. Now, we can go to the next. Sorry, that's the double. Next, please. Okay, so what are the things that we can offer to them? These are curated solutions. As you can see here, the hybrid model is still here to stay. Flexibility this is actually the year of flexibility. Winning companies led with empathy in the last 2 years. But right now is the year of flexibility, and I'm sure it will still be, on my personal perspective, it will still be a flexibility going forward. Because ultimately, our employees will demand for choices because they have already experienced it. So we have to consider not just the work from home model, but the time itself and where they can do it. Second D is again the competitive package. But please consider that in compensation is intertwined with growth, development, as well as rewards and recognition. So always consider it's not just about pay. And sometimes as a leader, we have to do some pay conversations to our employees. There is a survey that says that there are people who leave the organization not simply because of the higher pay, but simply because they didn't understand the value that they're getting from the organization. So there is that part of that in your organization. Now, reskilling and upskilling. It's not just about digital competency. You will notice, again, once upon a time, we do management succession, right? We do an annual survey. We do like a succession planning. We put in the red and the green, etc., talent box. But right now, your number one is gone. Your second in the pipeline is gone. The third one is gone. You're down with the fourth. But the fourth one is not yet ready. But we have no choice, right? Because we have to do internal talents because they have the institutional knowledge. So we have to keep them. But how can we make that person successful? Pause the fact, we have to upskill. So don't just let that person sink and swim. Once you give the promotion, you support the person, you coach, you provide the training needed. That's how we do it now. But of course, the ideal is if you can do it ahead of time, do it. But again, that's once upon a time. We all are in the same boat that we are not able to do that realistically. Okay, and then before I forget the digital competency, employees right now, regardless of the generation, boomers, my generation, and the rest of the generation, everyone loves to be relevant. So it's about digital dexterity. So make it sure that you have to invest on this because these are the things that they love. And at the same time, this also helps the organization because this is the new way of the world. Next is about greater work-life balance, which is a caring culture. I always have this philosophy as an HR professional that it's very simple, ABC of HR engagement. A is attract, building competencies, is care for welfare. Right now, we are big at caring for welfare because of the pandemic. If before our leaders, we as a leaders, it's more of the professional level. It's more of there is that boundary. But right now, from professional, it has shifted to personal because we have to let our employees self-express themselves. It's that genuine care to our employees. It's leading with empathy. Don't forget about it because even though if we lead with flexibility, empathy will still be there. Leadership, all of this will not be seamless if we don't have the leadership. There should be a support from top to down, and there is now a new way of managing people. It's no longer the way we do it in the past. There should be a mutual trust, and again, that genuine sympathy or empathy to our employees. Next, please. Sharing of best practices. I'll tell you about Shearwater. Shearwater is known as a home of clinicians. Large population of our employees are nurses. These are Philippine registered nurses and USRNs. And there's a little portion of our employees, these are corporate services. But again, this is a home of clinicians. Now, what have we done as, to address the issues of talent shortage, or the issues of retention? Next slide, please. Apart from the boot camp academies and the usual employee engagement and the usual career pathways, the company has introduced at what we call a nurse compass program. Next one, please. This one is unique for us because we have, probably you'll be surprised because this is an end-to-end deployment of nurses to the US. What is this? We have embraced the global demand of nurses leading. We want to keep them forever, but we do realize that there's no such thing as forever. But we can extend them to stay, right? How is that? When they apply for USRN or US abroad, they cannot, it takes them not overnight. They will not go to the US the following day. It will take them months and even a year, right? We've seen that opportunity, that there is that waiting time period that we can utilize their services. Hey, you can still be with us. So we all know, we identify that this is a potential attrition, but we know that we can still utilize the services. That is not a traditional talent pool, right? So we thought out of the box that we can utilize their services, and at the same time, we have that business that we can deploy them to the US. So that's one. So we provide them, again, the end-to-end deployment, we provide them financial milestones until they went to the US. Next, please. This one is, we are grateful and we're grateful for Far Eastern University, my alma mater. We partnered with them and they accepted our partnership that they created a health curriculum for healthcare. So what is this? Usually nurses would always think, I'll go abroad, I'll go to the US, right? Different countries. But this one, the healthcare curriculum would tell them, hey, there is a business process outsourcing or a clinical process outsourcing out there. There's another world out there that you don't know, that you might want to explore. So we partnered with them, and then again, there is that curriculum for the nurses as part of their study. Last, I think a month ago, Anshum, right, or 2 months ago, we had this, a day in the life. It was 700 students who came to our office, for a day, and we call it a day in the life of the clinicians, for them to appreciate how is it to work in our work environment. You can see that in Lincoln. Another one is we partnered with University of Cebu, where we subsidize the tuition of fourth-year students that at some point in time when they graduate, they move to us. Another one is a partnership with QualiMed and Asian Hospital. This one is bedside. Again, we are anticipating that people would like to go to the US. So this is providing them a platform that they can upskill their competencies and at the same time they can work with us. I know that, that the incubation period or the gestation period for this type of initiatives are long. It's long. It's not an overnight thing that you can have the talent right away at your door the following day. But we have to start with something. And time flies, right? Time flies. You'll never know, you already have that graduates on your door. Maybe the 700, we already have them by next year. So in summary, this is not one size fits solution to all. Every organization has their own strengths, so leverage that strength. Everyone has its own weaknesses, and that's why we are here in this industry. We partner, and we talk about it, and we share our best practices so we can learn from each other. I would leave you with I call it a traffic light model. You stop, you listen, and you take action. Maraming salamat. Thank you, everyone.
Miss Josefina Cruz, everyone, thank you so much. Fantastic talk. Isn't it amazing just the things that you learn, especially from the HR office? They've given us insight this afternoon of what's important to our employees. And the big C, COVID, wasn't all that bad because there were actually a lot of learnings for a lot of us, right? Like, we realized, I may have all the money in the world, but when everything closes down, what's that money gonna do? So we realized work-life balance is also very, very important. Excellent insight. I hope we can apply that to our own businesses. Okay, up next, she's also somebody from the HR, so I'm very interested to hear what she is going to speak to us about, because this one, she will speak to us about creating sustainable and high-performing teams in a work-from-home settings, something that I know a lot of us can certainly relate to. Let's please welcome the Managing Director, Human Resources Service Delivery Lead of Accenture, Miss Cheryl Quito.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Are we all alive and well? Yes. Thank you, Team Accenture. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this conference. You also miss doing talks in a live setting as opposed to virtual. And so for me, it's always a joy to be with colleagues in the industry and of course to learn, as Ms. Cruz mentioned earlier, to learn and share best practices with each other. So it is true that today there's a lot of interest about how we can really adjust our practices in this time where work is not really bounded by space and time. Earlier today, I said goodbye to my son who was doing his online school, and I told him, I'm going to work today, and so I'll see you later. And then I reflected on what I said, I'm going to work, and I realized, I think only half of that is true, because today it's no longer about going to a specific place to work. In fact, as I was on my way here, I attended 2 meetings, and that's already work, right? And so this is the new reality that we are all faced with, and there is always this desire, this clamor to see how we can better our people practices in order to capture the opportunities. No, earlier there was a discussion about the roadmap, and this is a very vibrant industry. And so if we are able to harness all of these good people practices that will resonate with the people that we want to attract and stay and build a career in this industry, it is really paramount to take stock of these strategies in order to help our employees to realize their potential, and most importantly, make an impact in a larger sense by building strong and resilient teams. So this afternoon, I have the pleasure of sharing with you our own journey as Accenture in terms of how we were shaping our future of work. So, indeed, for Accenture, we are no stranger to remote work, because for many decades, we have actually served our clients through remote work. And so when the pandemic happened, it was not like it was like the next day, right? But yes, we had a lot of resiliency around doing remote work. But of course, in spite of that, we also have our clients where traditionally, no, they have always followed a model where work is done on site. And so it took, a bit of, discussions and negotiations for the feasibility of actually doing remote work on a consistent basis, because there was no choice, right? There was no option. For the most part, people felt they were safer doing the work from home. And so as clients and Accenture as a business contemplated doing that, we had to focus on what was important, for our people. And that meant really making sure that as we make the move to full, remote working, is that we always kept in mind how is it that, what are the things we can do to better support our employees. And one of the good things that, resulted to dividends for us is that this investment in the totality of the human being, the person, was something that we embarked to do, even 6 years back. So 6 years back, we started down this path with the ambition to be the most truly human organization in the digital age. And what that meant was for us to really look at the holistic, human being across dimensions of heart, mind, body, and soul. And for my colleagues here, I'm sure you remember, all of the campaigns that we ran, all the activities and programs that we did in support of that. So as we shifted to remote work, we already had that foundation to build upon. And we knew that because it was not one size fits all, it was important for us to also listen to our employees. And for you who are attending this conference, I'm sure what is top of mind are these two things, right? How do we support our people as they work in this new reality? And how do we inspire and energize people as they embed new ways of working? So for us, while we had that strong foundation, it was imperative that we also took a 360-degree view of how we would go about even shifting or evolving our practices in support of these objectives. So for that, we looked, of course, externally. We looked at what the academe was seeing. We talked to our clients. We also looked internally into the businesses that we have in all the locations that we operate in. And most importantly, right, is to give people the ability to be heard. And for that, we really were very intentional in making sure that we run these sessions to hear what people have to say and make sure that as we reflected on how we would shape the future of work, that we were in step along the way, making sure that we also act on the feedback that they provided to us. Now, for this afternoon, there are two key concepts that I would offer as you look toward refining your strategies in terms of building sustainable working from home, and also as you build resilient teams. The first is to, of course, continue to focus on the individual, and the second is to focus on human connection. So let me start off by sharing a few more principles related to our research, which is about, as a company, caring to do better, to leave people net better off. So these are the 6 dimensions that we believe will be key to unlocking the full potential of our employees. We always want to increase productivity. We always want to make sure people are at their best at work and, of course, as they manage their personal lives. And so we felt it was not enough, right, to hire them, give them a job and a paycheck. We had to address other dimensions, and I will mention 4 that are really key for all of us to continue to think about and evolve our practices. The first is about employability. So earlier, I did hear the presentation about how the skills are evolving. And technology is also rapidly evolving, and along with that, the requirement for us to evolve the skills of our employees. In this time of great, upheaval on the economic landscape, the political landscape, there is always that worry or anxiety for people whether do I have the right skills to do the jobs of the future. I don't know if you've thought about that. So I know you are all looking very young, so maybe you're not thinking about retirement. But think about it. They said 80 years old, right, is the new retirement age. We can reinvent ourselves many times over. But most likely, it is not doing the same things we are doing today. So it is key that we continue to build employability among our employees. And guess what? They will love you for it. And in Accenture, we have, in addition to providing our employees the usual, skills, training that they need, we also embarked on building their technology quotient. So there are so many quotient, emotional quotient, strategy quotient. But we felt that in order for them to continue to build their employability, building their technology quotient is also very important. So even we in HR are not exempt. We also have to take our TQ, as we call it, the TQ courses, and as that is being refreshed, it also builds and helps us to become conversant in the technologies that will impact the work that we do today. So, and in the future. So the second is about also making sure that our work connects with our sense of purpose. So if you think about it, right, there are always jobs that can pay more, but why is it that people stay in jobs that connect in a big way to the passion, whatever it is that they're passionate about? So it is key for us to unlock how do you build that connection, that congruence between what people's sense of purpose is to the type of work we are doing. And in the health industry, it's actually a very great thing that whatever work is being done here directly contributes to the health and well-being. There's an impact being created to a lot of people around the world. So that's the second thing, connecting with that sense of purpose. The third is also about looking at the holistic needs of the individual, the health and well-being across a variety of dimensions. So health and well-being is not only about physical or emotional, there's also wellness around mental wellness and, of course, financial wellness. So we have to evolve our practices. One thing I'd like to share is that I'm sure over the past 2.5 years, a number of the companies here have revisited your own healthcare coverage or healthcare programs. That is in response to what we have seen, where to the employee, it doesn't matter that you're just, giving them, HMO access, but what is key for them is to also secure the health coverage, and support for their families, especially with what we have experienced, during the height of COVID. So a number of us, for sure, embarked on revisiting that to make sure it is highly relevant to the needs of our employees. And the good thing with this is that the literature continues to grow in terms of what other insights we can get based on what our employees are telling us in terms of how we can better support them. And of course, there's the relational aspect, which I'll get to in a minute, which is about cultivating that sense of belonging. So I'll go to that next. And I would like to offer, so the first is taking care of the individual, we have to continue to do that. And the second thing is harnessing the power of omni-connection. So connection, that's very critical. In our research, no, we have found that, so I have some statistics no, to share with this group. So consider this. Only 1 in 6 people surveyed felt that they were highly connected to the organization and people they work for and work with. Only 1 in 5 people feel comfortable sharing their problems or raising conflicts with their colleagues. And only 1 in 4 report that their leaders are responsive to their needs, that they communicate regularly, and feel that they are treating team members equally. So we want to build strong and resilient teams. We have to address making sure that we address this need for human connection. And it's easy to become disconnected in a time where we're all doing our thing, right, at home. And that's why we have really continued our research on this topic around omni-connection. And while it seems like a buzzword, right, at the heart of it, what it only means is not just being on all the time. It's actually finding ways in terms of how we can meet the employee's need regardless of the situation they may find themselves in. We work with hybrid teams all the time if we have counterparts in other locations. So it's being considerate of how we can create that environment or experience where people feel that there is equal treatment regardless of whether you're working at home or whether you're working in the office, no? Or whether what type of access you have, and being considerate about making sure that the connections continue in spite of that situation. So what are the 4 elements that will allow us, to actually cultivate omni-connection? So there are 4 key tenets here, and I'll just go quickly on this one. First is about modern leadership, no? Instilling modern leadership. What do I mean by that? It's not actually a very difficult concept to grasp. At the heart of it, it's about having leaders who care in the real sense of the word, no? And caring in this sense means being able to deal with, differences within the team, having the genuine care and to want to support their employees. And it's unfortunate, right, that in the time of pandemic, what did we keep on saying? Social distancing. Please keep your distance. In Accenture, to some degree, we have outlawed that term because we wanted people not to feel socially distant, because we believe we need to make sure that the connections remain strong. And the key to unlock that rests largely on the leadership or on the people leads, no, that our people actually work with. So this is really very powerful if they work with leaders whom they feel are really genuinely taking care of them, reaching out to them. I think while the offers may be very tempting, but once that bond is built, you'll be amazed at what it will result to, where people will do the stretch willingly, even if you ask them to do, things, for you, and really build that fierce loyalty, which we all want, not to have. Okay. So empowered leadership. We also want to build stronger relationships within the team. So this is also very key, where people are not seen in the physical sense because they're not sitting side by side with you, but they actually feel seen. So in Accenture, we equip all our people leads. We have a module that we run them through about instilling belonging in teams, because we believe we have to be intentional, right? This cannot happen by accident. We may think that there are people who are naturally born to lead and to care for employees, but this is where we come in by supplementing that and making sure that they are aware of how to handle cases that involve their employees. I'm glad also that our people leads came forward to ask for support. So they asked us, what training can you provide in order for us to be mental health allies? So they came forward because they also believed in the power of building these relationships and making people feel seen. it's always asked, how do you build culture in a time where people are working largely from home? And it's interesting because we usually tie building the company culture to what? To structures, to physical structures, being physically present. But the key there really is caring doesn't require it to be like physical, right? And there are so many ways by which we can build those connections. There are so many tools that will allow us to keep in touch with our employees and engender that feeling of being seen. Okay, down to the last two, of course, we also wanted to promote mental resilience within our employee ranks. And for this, again, it's a very robust practice as it is putting in mechanisms to really help our people cope with various situations. And there is really take-up for this. So as we looked across the spectrum of offerings that we have around mental health programs and support, we were able to see that people are really taking advantage of it. So if you have not thought about partnering with a provider, actually can extend EAP or employee assistance support for your employees, I think the time is ripe for you to do that because now it is more of a given or requirement, and it's not anymore a nice to have. And last but not the least, of course, we can leverage a lot of the technology solutions that are also out there. Oops, it's not. Okay, there are technology solutions out there that can help in building connection. So as I have seen, a lot of our projects have employed a lot of the listening tools, sentiment analysis, because they want to be able to intervene and help their employees at the right time, and in order to make sure that they feel that there is someone they can reach out and talk to. So there's a host of social listening tools that are employed. There are also a lot of collaboration tools. So a lot of our huddles in working with teams that are working remotely are done via Microsoft Teams and other software, where we have the ability to connect, and push all these virtual floor walks and also make sure that we are in touch, especially with our new hires. Okay. So as I end, I will leave you with this thought, right? As leaders, we have a lot of influence in how we are able to build strong and high-performing teams. But it is an iterative process. And again, as they said, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to this. We have to constantly experiment, pilot initiatives, and always have a listening ear. And I would like to invite all of you to be part of this revolution where we all want our employees to feel that they are deeply cared for. So that what we envision is that from looking at attrition metrics, we shift to wanting to make sure that our people feel connected, they feel inspired, from saying that, what are the moments that matter to an employee? We shift that to every moment with the employee actually matters. From saying we're doing I&D programs, D&I, it's required, to something where we really genuinely feel we have to build that strong sense of connection with our employees. And by doing all of this, of course, aside from just impacting our employees, it creates a very good effect and positive impact around us, such that I will leave you with this thought that with everything that you are doing today, is there anything else you can do as you answer the question, have I or have our company done what we can to make this world a better place to live in? Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Cheryl Quito, thank you so much. She is from Accenture. And once again, of course, a lot of things to think about. I learned a new term today, omni-connectedness. Is it your first time? Is it your first time to hear that as well? Can you raise your hand? Or ako lang? Ako lang ba? Pag taga Mindanao, hindi alam yung word na yun? All right, but I really like that, omni-connectedness, thinking about health, well-being, how we can take care of our employees. So hopefully, you guys got to pick up more than just, on the... Ayun, meron akong isang taga Mindanao as well na first time narinig. Okay, as we're setting this up, I'm sure you can already tell we have an interesting panel discussion coming up next. And while they're doing that, I just want to remind everybody again of our raffle that is happening tonight. So do not forget to drop off your business cards or, a name with your paper, your contact number. We're not going to stalk you. There is that Data Privacy Law Act that we need to recognize and honor. But if you can put it there, then you have a chance to win our raffle for tonight. Once again, I am reminding you all of what these raffle prizes are. From Robinson's Land, they are giving away 4 GCs overnight for 2 with breakfast, a complimentary breakfast at Philly Hotel. The first, a 5-star hotel in New Star Resort and Casino, Cebu City. This is, again, compliments of Robinson's Land. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Of course, a coffee maker is coming from Eastern as well. Let's hope it's the one that can make us the fancy coffee. Sagility is also giving us 3 GCs for Eastwood Richmond Hotel with buffet breakfast for 2. And of course, Got It All Marketing and Alveo is giving us 14 pieces Slimmers World GC with worth 1,500 each. All right, up next, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead to the next panel discussion. They will talk about addressing the business challenges in HIMSS, using enablers, disruptive technologies, and unique talent and operational strategies. Let's call in first the moderator of this session. He is the co-founder and chairman of Navix Health Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Colin Christie. The panelists that will join him this afternoon, the Senior Vice President of AAPC International, Senior Vice President Daniel Shuobak is going to come here and join us again. And of course, we're asking Cheryl Quito as well to join us here on stage. Once again, the Managing Director, Human Resources Services Delivery Lead from Accenture. Accenture, let's give her a big round of applause. Awesome. And of course, from Shearwater Health, once again, Ms. Josefina Cruz, the SVP of Human Resources.
All right. We're coming down to the home stretch. So welcome to my living room for the next 45 minutes. Make yourself comfortable. Yeah, and so as you can see, the graphic that just was up there, the discussion is about business challenges and then how the various enablers and technology and processes can help us overcome those challenges. But I want to just put it in a little bit of context first. And also, I'd really like to make this as interactive as possible. So formulate your questions now, and we'd love to get also questions so that they're not all just coming from me. So I think the context has been set in the last 2.5 days, which is thanks to Jack and the HIMAP board and all the rest, we've got this very tall order, something just, as easy as double the industry in the next 6 years. Do that in your sleep. So I think that's the context. It's not just so much the challenges we have here today, but we have very ambitious road ahead. And so what I would like to do is maybe segment this into external challenges and well as internal challenges, and especially having Dan here, it's really great. And I hope your jet lag hasn't kicked in yet. I know you got in like 1 a.m. last night. And I think we're getting a little feedback. I'll try to move a bit. So I think maybe it'd be good to put it into sort of the external context first, right? We have, I know how many times have you been to the Philippines now, Dan? It's been a few, right?
Yeah, probably 20 times maybe.
Yeah, so we've got someone who really has a unique opportunity. He obviously resides in the US, but he travels here on a very frequent basis. And also the people you interact with stateside are the demand side, you know, we're the supply side, so you get to interact with those folks as well. So maybe I could throw it to you first. How would you, if we were having this conference in LA or San Francisco or, you know, Las Vegas or something, and we were asking the question, what are the HIM challenges? What sort of answers do you think we would be hearing, you know, from the external side?
Well, so I'll approach this from a U.S. kind of perspective, but I think I alluded to this a little bit in my presentation. One of the key challenges the industry is facing right now is just, like, again, I guess I would refer to it as more of a population problem. You know, we've got the replacement rate within the workforce is not keeping up. You know, so you have this demographic bubble where there's going to be this mass exodus of talent. And we're, for a variety of reasons, it's difficult to basically get kind of the younger people to come into that industry and to replace that. So I think one of the biggest external challenges, at least from the U.S. side, that they're facing is just it's that replacement rate of talent. Now the benefit to countries like the Philippines and India and other places is that creates an enormous opportunity for you guys to be able to come in and step in. But you know, again, even here, it sounds like there's still some challenges with, you know, building a large pipeline of talent here, even within the Philippines, that can fill that gap. So I just think that's kind of a major issue that everybody's facing right now, particularly in the U.S., though.
And along with that, when the folks in the U.S. are thinking about, okay, we've got this issue with our retiring rate and workforce, and they're considering offshoring, how do you think they think about the Philippines? Is it top of mind? You know, where do you hear the Philippines come up in conversation, and what is the sort of the take on that conversation?
Yeah, again, from U.S. perspective, so, you know, professionals are obviously threatened a little bit by the outsourcing concept because it's, you know, it's kind of viewed by workers there as like, hey, people are taking our jobs from us. So, you know, if you talk to a medical coder there, they tend to be quite anti, you know, outsourcing, just mainly from the perspective of it's taking my job. But everybody understands the macroeconomics that are occurring and that's just an inevitable thing. And, you know, the labor arbitrage and all those kind of things, it makes sense. I can tell you, though, you know, when you talk to folks about their view of the Philippines, there's a very high view of the workers here. I mean, in the U.S., people look at the Philippines as a marketplace where just culturally, you know, Filipino people are very accommodating, very friendly, and a lot of that I think is driven by the nurses that are in the marketplace because there's a lot of nurses in the U.S. and so that has helped to kind of set a good tone in terms of how we view Filipino people. And then just there's, you know, the view of the talent pool. Yeah, it's a very positive perspective that I think people have on the Filipino marketplace, more so than most other countries. I think you would be ranked at the top in terms of how people view the talent.
Well, that's exciting to hear. And then right before I come to both of you, I just have one more question around, you know, this external view. This morning in Jeff's presentation, Jeff Williams, he was saying how, you know, over the years, over the last couple of decades, we've done a lot of road shows and tried to promote the Philippines, and that's something obviously a little difficult to do during the pandemic, but that's coming back in. And he was sort of urging all of us collectively to re-engage with that, but also think about how well we communicate the value of the Philippines around the world. Of course, I'm focusing on the U.S. because that's where you're from, but I think that, you know, this is obviously something global. From your perspective, how would you rate us? How well do we communicate the value of the Philippines, you know, to the U.S. audience? And any advice of things maybe we could tune up on?
Yeah, I think the message is getting out there. You know, one recommendation I would have is that, you know, and I'll be fully transparent, as an association, we've been very careful about how we message what we do in the U.S. versus what's going on outside of the U.S. Again, because our largest portion of our membership base is U.S. based, and there's been this fear of outsourcing and kind of this resistance to that. And so we've kind of tiptoed around that as an association, been very careful how we address that. But when I came on, I guess it's been about 6 or 7 years now, my job was to how do we expand the international markets. And so what we've been very intentional about the last few years is addressing with our U.S. members that, hey, there's a lot that's going on in the international markets, and it's not something to be scared of, it's something to embrace. We're a global community. Standards need to be applied, whether it's in the U.S. or anywhere, but they need to be uniform. And so we've started to be much more open about that. And I think, we could work with the market here, and I think more opportunity through associations, whether it's us, HIMA, or other organizations, to kind of present collaboratively and even come to our conferences and talk. And we're very open to that because we're trying to open that dialogue because it's just something that's going to happen. So people need to accept that. And so I think maybe working in more partnerships and engaging in the marketplace through that way would be a great mechanism to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think many in the audience are listening to that point. And thank you for the invitation. I'll take that as an invitation that we can do joint events and speak together. So let me come to both of you. We're very fortunate. We've got a couple of the best HR professionals here in the Philippines. Before we talk again internally, let's still say external. Obviously, your organizations, your people, your companies have external communication, right, with both your clients, but also with members of your teams in other countries. How would you characterize, the nature of those relationships, and what do you do, to improve upon those relationships in the communication between the Philippines and other parts of the world?
No. I think it's ingrained in the local talents that we're a very because of the culture that we have. At some point, the country has been colonized by the Westerns, so the kind of the Western culture they readily adopt. So in terms of the English communication, it's easy for them to communicate. The second one is they're not confined with the usual type of work that they do. The good thing about the locals is we do have that share of the mentality of hospitality, right? So we go beyond the job description and so on. And we go extend, we call it like extra miles or milestones to help in doing the work that we do. And those are the things that our counterparts appreciate, our clients. We would be getting, I'm sure you also have that, Cheryl, that in our organization, we would receive commendations from our clients, from our colleagues on how our people work and how dedicated they are. So, Cheryl?
Yeah, I would like to share. Well, one interesting observation I've seen since the travel, the country borders have opened up, there really is a sense of our, clients wanting to connect with the teams that are here. Of course, throughout the 2.5 years, they would have stayed connected virtually. But as soon as the borders opened up and the restrictions were lifted, I have seen a lot of clients coming over, holding town halls with our people, and really affirming how they love partnering with the Filipinos. So there really is, I think, a special bond that has been created for the traits that Joe had talked about. But I think there is also that element of resilience, right? Being in the healthcare industry, I mean, they would know the disparity in terms of, for example, what is provided for as government healthcare, right? The support that the people are getting vis-a-vis what they know in their respective countries. But in spite of that, and maybe they've also seen the situation here in the height of COVID, the people have remained largely resilient. And I think it is that trait that attracts clients to come and visit and see what is that special sauce that we have as a country. And I'm glad to see that they're taking the opportunity to see it now for themselves. And that means a lot for this industry. I think the roadmap is very much doable, right? Given how our clients have expressed how they love working with us.
Okay, that's excellent. So let me shift a little bit now. The main thrust of this panel is, of course, around challenges and now let's turn it more internally. So I think you've scoped out pretty well the external environment. Both of you did an excellent job, I think, in your presentations, already highlighting what those challenges have been. What we'd like to ask is, events that we went through the pandemic, initially it was like emergency measure, we were sort of reactive, and then got the chance to think things through more. And then how do you see the solutions, the enablers, whether it's technologies or people processes, that are now proving to have lasting value, that maybe we're forced into these measures, but now they're proving to have lasting value? What comes to mind, or maybe things that have sort of surprised you that, we've realized in the last couple of years that, but for the pandemic, maybe it wouldn't have been top of mind. So, would you like?
Yeah, technology is number one for me because, we have human beings working with technology side to side. We cannot work without the technology, no matter how, it's like going to a marathon. If you don't have a car with you, then you can go, someone would be able to overtake you if someone has a car or a tool to be able to reach the destination. So technology helps us to streamline the processes. Technology helps our talents to augment the gap in the work that they do. At the same time, it's an advancement of what they know, the technology. Because as a talent, they always aspire for what is out there, apart from the usual transaction that they do. So they have this kind of belief that when they go into an organization, they stay in the organization, they learn every day, and it's something that gives them the purpose, a meaningful work. Cheryl? Maybe.
Well, I was going to, maybe this is a totally different perspective because I'm not coming from a BPO mindset, right? But with the pandemic, one of the things that happened, everybody kind of had to go remote, right? And within APC, all 400 of our employees went 100% remote. But one of the things we decided as things started to come back is we made the decision to totally shift our business model and go stay remote completely. So we made that transition. And I think for us, it's been, the biggest concern is just productivity, and is that going to be a productivity killer? And actually it wasn't. But it's been great for our employees because it's presented a lot more flexibility and things. And so, I think it's been really good for us in terms of retaining talent and things like that. And again, I'm not sure how applicable it is to this market here. But from our perspective, I think that was a great move to go remote, give our employees that flexibility, and it's been a great thing. The biggest challenge of that has been how do you maintain people feeling connected now that they're not in the workplace? And I don't know that we've got a good way to resolve that yet, but I'm curious maybe, because you guys are obviously operating different businesses, it's a different model here, so I don't know how feasible that is, but that's one thing we saw a great benefit from, was actually realizing you can do stuff remote. You don't have to be in the office.
I agree with you. Yes, actually. And I believe most of us are actually doing it already. We have embraced the fact that it's the way of the world. Because in the past, we were sensitive with the data, and we cannot even allow employees to work from home. But then the new reality has taught us that there are impossible things that we can do in so short a time. And it's doable, right, Sherry?
And one byproduct, if you will, of this ability to do remote work, I think, is opening up possibilities also in terms of having access to a broader talent pool. Usually, in a time where work has to be done in a physical site, what is our tendency? We have to hire people who kind of live near these sites. But now that we have enabled remote work, there is now a broader talent pool you can tap. And I like that because it also means developing a number of the other cities in the Philippines. And I believe that's what IBPAP and HIMAP is all about, now making sure that we reach all these other places where there's an abundance of talent that can be developed and can also help us grow the industry. So I think that is a key enabler for us. For me, the second thing also that I'm excited about is because a lot of us had to be cooped up in our homes, right? is the tendency for people to now have access to a lot of the learning tools that are out there. So learning has been democratized in so many ways, and that presents opportunities, I believe, even for this industry, where the traditional way that we would train our employees as they go through the process training or whatnot, it also allows us now to go beyond the borders of what a typical class size would allow, because you can now do it with more people, and you can give people now access to the best trainers all around the world, because it's no longer bounded by location or place. So there's a lot of changes happening, even in HR. We're kind of like excited about all these changes because we have to evolve our talent practices in terms of how we access talent, how we unlock potential, how do we create talent. Actually, is also one thing that this whole remote working revolution has enabled us now to do.
If I may piggyback on what Cheryl said, um, we actually are rewriting the rules right now. You said about getting candidates from outside. We used to be doing it by brick and mortar, right, in the office sites. But right now, we ensure Water is now able to expand our footprint to different areas of the country. Like we go to Pampanga, Davao, and Baguio, and we don't need to have a site. As compared before, that our mantra is, okay, employees have to come to the office. But right now, they can, and it's working. So again, we have to rewrite the rules because in HR, we have to come up with different rules. That's the big change that we have to do.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So let's think now ahead. We've got this 6-year exciting journey ahead. Maybe if we envision that we're sitting here 3 years from now, we're at the HIMSCON 2025, I guess, and we're looking back over the 3 years that just happened, and we're saying, 3 years ago, these are the biggest challenges we had, and here we are, we're halfway, to this roadmap goal of doubling, and these are these big challenges that we're so proud to say we overcame those challenges. Two questions. What do you think those challenges are that we would highlight? And what might you envision was the key things that we did to overcome those challenges?
For me, Collins, is more of adaptability to the big change. If I go back, say we're now at 2030, I look back what happened in COVID. First and foremost, of course, I will look back at the issues of the problems that we had. But after overcoming, because the first thing that we need to do at the time was to survive. Right now, we're thriving. So I can say by the time, we should have been successful by then. So the adaptability, or the inherent nature of us, as talents, is number one for us. That I would look back that, hey, you can be flexible anytime, and nothing is impossible. Anything can be done.
Well, for me, of course, it's imperative that we address the talent gap. 3 years, right, into the future. I would expect there would have been step changes in the way we build into our curriculum, enabling people to be job ready for jobs in this industry. That's why I'm excited with partnering with the DICT, what we heard earlier, because that's really the only way, right? We have to prioritize skilling up our people, making that available to our people, so that the brain drain that happens when our nurses, right, decide, oh, I'd better take my career elsewhere because I will not be able to progress, and help my family improve their standard of living by staying in the country. So I'm really hopeful that 3 years from now, right, that whole landscape around how we credentialize, how we access talent pools and develop the talent pools, given the rapid changes to technology, and that we are still the primary destination for clients seeking partners, in this industry. I do hope that that becomes a reality by then.
Yeah, I think I was just going to comment that I think building up the talent pools the most critical component right now. There's so much opportunity be seized, but you got to have a bigger funnel going into that talent pool. So whatever means you can do that, whether that's with government collaborations or various things, but filling that talent pipeline that you can access. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities for growth that are present if you don't have that talent pool to tap into.
Yeah, I really agree, and I think we have the right mix of folks here participating in this conference to make that happen, and really does take all three sectors, the public sector, the government partnerships, the private sector employers, but let's also make sure we're also including the academe and training industry as well. Obviously, the training folks can make the most immediate impact, but this roadmap is long enough that we can be thinking about people who are just now like in senior high school level, that they're going to be the ones who are going to have the talents we need 6 years down the road. So I know our organizations collectively are doing that, but I think it's something we need to do more. So I was saying earlier, love to get inputs. Let me just already even ask if anyone would like to raise their hand as a burning question. Very bright spotlight.
Colin, so somebody did ask about ICD 11 because I think that's kind of a key component that comes into play as we talk about developing talent and those things. And I didn't have it on my radar when I did my presentation, so I kind of failed to address that. But let me just comment on that for a minute. So ICD 11 was approved in the U.S. By CMS earlier this year. So it has the approval, but there's been no work yet done to date on the clinical modification side of things. So basically, we're probably looking at 5 to 7 years before we would move to an implementation on ICD 11. So as far as developing future, the talent and those kind of things, because we're still, ICD 10 was just recently implemented, in the last 5-6 years, and that's a big investment. So, in terms of future outlook for things, that's probably the horizon we're looking at. We would say 5 to 7 years as far as that goes. But just preemptively maybe answering a question out there.
Yeah, but I'm reminded that sounds like a long ways down the track, but it's not really. It goes really, really quickly. Anybody have a burning question? I have more, but just pause for a second. No, you're also content out there, or having your afternoon nap already? So we've talked about the external environment. We talked about some internal. Let's also think about headwinds. It's nice to think, okay, we're going to have this steady ramp up, to doubling over the next 6 years, but what are the headwinds? And I want to start with the U.S. headwinds. It seems like the storms are brewing on the U.S. side. Can you read the tea leaves a little bit for us on what's happening?
Yeah, I think, as far as the tea leaves go, a headwind that I look at is really, if you look at the healthcare industry as a whole right now, there's an acceleration of adoption of technology, right? And it's not just, it's automation, it's things like predictive healthcare, it's things like patient engagement, remote monitoring, all these things. It's really changing the dynamic of healthcare delivery. We're going from what's predominantly been an appointment-based type of healthcare system to more of a predictive personalized medicine type system. So not only does that change the dynamic of healthcare delivery, changes the dynamic of how healthcare gets paid for, all those kind of things. So I think one of the challenges is as that acceleration takes place, particularly for the BPO industry, where do you fit into that paradigm shift, and what become the value-added services you can bring to the industry as those type of as the model itself changes within healthcare. And so I think, I wasn't here earlier, but somebody mentioned something about Blockbuster Video, and that's just a good example that in the early 90s, they made the wrong bet, and then Netflix came in and kind of took things over. And I think there's some of that risk still, particularly for the services organizations. Hospitals will have to figure that out. They'll be a part of that process. But for the service side, what kind of service and where are those needs and how do you fit into that value chain? That to me is a big headwind because you have to get that bet right, but you have to start focusing on that now because it's so technology driven. You've got to start, making those pivots now so that in 5, 6, 7 years you have, operationally you've got the right resources, and then you're able to develop your talent and your skills, for those type of things. But that to me is probably one of the biggest fundamental things that's going on right now that I could see creating a headwind is like, where do you go with stuff?
Yeah, so there again, to your earlier point of us engaging and having really good communications, maybe attending events, on the U.S. side and really understanding where these changes are coming from so we can proactively deal with them and not get blindsided. And this one I know is really tough and interesting. Ironically, the economic headwinds that are happening, that no one knows if the U.S. is going into recession or not, and have we peaked on inflation or not. None of us would know that. Ironically enough, it seems like actually those economic pressures, if anything, boost, at least short-term, demand here because people are looking for ways to deal with cost issues and whatnot. And then I think also historically, healthcare has been maybe the least affected. But can you give us?
Yeah, I mean, healthcare it's a good industry because it's always been very recession-proof. Because you still have to have the medical care, and in fact, what happens is as we do go into recession, historically, what we've seen is it pushes more people into the healthcare sector because as they get laid off, they look to reskill, and healthcare is always a place where that's good, to do. But to your point, it does create. There's already a lot of cost pressure on organizations in the U.S. about how to reduce costs, and as there's recessions and things, that it just intensifies. So. Again, it's that arbitrage play in pricing and things. And so, I think it does open up a lot more opportunities for the outsourcing. And I think we've kind of gotten past that final hurdle of people being worried about HIPAA and data security and those kind of things. That's always been a reluctant thing about outsourcing. And I think there's a lot more growing comfort there. So really becomes more of an economic play. So I think if we do move into recession, again, that just bodes well for industries like the Philippines and India.
Interesting. So, how about on the the Philippine side? Headwinds that you see. Obviously, we already have the current headwinds of talent shortage and talent issues. But you see over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, what would you foresee as potential headwinds that we need to be wary of or conscious of? Anything come to mind?
Well, for me, it still goes back to the talent. We just talked about the tremendous opportunity that this brings. But equally, we have to kind of be in step with the technology, requirements, advancing the knowledge of our workers and employees to be able to fit the profile that is required. Because it's hard, right? When our clients come, we would like to, of course, help them, but it just really takes a while. And my observation on the behavior of our young people nowadays, right, is that the stickiness, you really have to build that. Else they're on to the next exciting thing and they don't then deepen their specialization. They're not patient enough to just go to where it's interesting. And because the pandemic has shown us, right, the things that are important, it's not so much anymore that, okay, I'll wait here for 30 years to become the next managing director. I will make the most of the time that I have. And if it means doing the things that I'm passionate about and that I like, I'm okay. I can leave the job that I have today. And as Joe had said, it still is an employee market to some degree here. There's a lot of choice. And so it's really about redirecting our people to future-proof themselves and build their employability. But that also takes investment on their part. And in the Philippines, sometimes if it's not free, they will not take it. That's why we are really in a crusade to really increase the employability. We've been tapping into hidden talent, be it, for example, homemakers, right, who now want to, maybe they have a medical or health-related degree, and now they just want to go back to the workforce. So we're looking into all these opportunities because they're already intrinsically motivated to want to do this type of work. So, but we have to be better at prospecting, and we have to be better at building that connection so that whatever investments we have made are not lost, and so we move higher up the value chain to do what the clients require for us to do and grow ourselves in the process.
Great, and actually, believe it or not, we already have to wrap up, but I just maybe end with you and ask you, let's end on a positive note. What would you encourage the audience to do? Lessons that you've learned, or things that you feel like these are really nuggets that folks should think about going next week after this event is done and put into action in their companies?
First and foremost, let's think about out of the box. We've always said that, but right now we have been doing a lot of traditional stuff right now. As Cheryl said, we are going out, enticing homemakers, and that's another possibility. We're talking about internal talents and external talents. Internal talents, how can we entice them to stay with us? Build their skills. It's always building the skills, reskilling. External talents, look outside of the box. Instead of just, are you looking for a certain specific role? Can you do a work design that would carve out certain functions that can be outsourced to another or can be done by another person? So it's more of a blended approach that we have to open our minds of not just a talent for the talent who's doing it, but it may be the work design that we have to look at. And be creative on creating the work design that would be applicable to your new talents. And I know there's really abundance of talents out there. I believe that there's unemployment, right? And there are a lot of graduates coming in. It's just that we just have to think a lot of creative ways, things that we have not really. It's something that we have not tested. And that's why when I spoke a while ago during my speech, I said that I'm very positive that with all these issues that we have, the challenges, we can, because nothing is impossible because of the resiliency that we have, and then, of course, the support of the industry with us.
Well, great. I think that's a really encouraging way to wrap up. Think outside the box, and we can invent the future. Be very successful. So, Josephina, Cheryl, Dan, thank you very much. Thank you to the audience.
All right, we'll have them stay here. Thank you so much. We'll have your picture, a photo op. All right, thank you very much. Let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but actually I'm seeing that you, like myself, have been glued to our seats. I am telling you, I am having a difficult time going to the loo just because I want to sit here and I'm just tuned into you so much. Yes, and I heard again, extending the talent pool, looking to other islands in the Philippines, and I can really attest, moving from Manila, going to Mindanao, I can really say that yes, there is so much talent. Exhibit A is right here, and we can work remotely, and a lot of and what I really learned, working in Mindanao and living in Mindanao, is that people there truly, they're so humble. I mean, so you have Filipinos, right? Filipinos, we're very humble, we're very polite. If you go to Mindanao, man, they're even more polite and even more humble. So on behalf of Mindanao, I'm selling my people. Come. Please come. Please bring your businesses. And I can tell you, if people ask me, Shyla, are there no terrorists there? I really tell them, it's about a 16-hour drive if you want to get kidnapped, and I'm kidding. But it's the danger zones are in specific areas and they're far away from a huge part of Mindanao. The trouble is it's a 10% part of Mindanao. There's so much to see. There's a lot of wonderful people to meet. So I invite you, come to Mindanao, see what's there and see what we have for you. Okay, I sold Mindanao. It's not my job. I just really wanted to. You guys made it so compelling for me. I want to raise my hands up for Mindanao people. Okay. Right up next, we have the closing plenary panel discussion this afternoon. So once again, I know you've been glued, but I want to encourage you, if you need time to go to the loo, you can do that now while I yap on about who is coming up next. But because I can guarantee you, you wouldn't want to leave for this part because they are going to talk about industry and multi-sectoral dialogue. These are the key leaders of four big IT BPM associations. Guys, we're talking about HIMAP, PSIA, CCAP, and IBPAP. Do I hear a round of applause for these four big companies? Right? They're going to be side by side with champions from partner government agencies. Yes, one of our co-partners today, DICT, is going to join us. DTI, BOI, and DOH. They're going to discuss opportunities for growth, addressing challenges and next steps on how the Philippines will maintain its consistent trajectory, empowering global health information management services. Right? So let me call on the moderator. I had the pleasure of meeting him already earlier this morning. We'd like to call on the president of the PSIA, Mr. Jonathan De Luzuriaga.
Thank you, Shai. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone still good? I think Butch is sleeping already there. Butcher is still awake. Okay, he's still awake. Good afternoon. I'm going to wake everyone up before we actually go through the festivities. I think there's going to be overflowing alcohol, right? Correct? This evening, right? It's so nice that we're here for a healthcare conference and then we're going to destroy our livers later on. So, allow me to actually call to the stage. By the way, Shai, I just came back from Davao. Again, beautiful place. Even for software development, you could get a lot of talent from that particular island. So, allow me to call on stage my co-panelists. To say that they're saving the best for last, I don't think I could use that, Colin, because from the first day and the second day, which were all consumed virtually, and then on the third day, which is face-to-face, and all the presentations and all of the panel discussions, everyone was stellar, exceptional. But then again, all good things must come to an end. Hence, we have this closing panel. And allow me to call on stage, first and foremost, the President of the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, Mr. Vince Remo. Vince, please take your place in the mini. I think this was really customized for our size now because Jack Madrid is also going to be joining us for this panel discussion. So, without further ado, the President of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, Mr. Jack Madrid. So the only person that we're lacking for this is Jeff Williams, and this has been a very good poster already for Lord of the Rings, right? And representing government, we have our governor for the Department of Trade and Industry, Board of Investments. We have Attorney Marjorie Ramos Samaniego. Attorney. So now I'm going to start behaving because we have a lawyer in the panel, right? Last but not the least, please put special attention into the outfit for the day, okay? Of this next person is another good friend of the industry, the director of the ICT Industry Development Bureau, or the DICT. Everyone's favorite, Emilu Delfin. Emmy, please join us. Thank you so much. So we've got here, it's okay, I'll stay over here. So we have here a very nice mix of people who could actually make it happen for the healthcare information management industry. We've got an equal representation from government as well as industry. And of course, the star of the show right now is my co-captain, Mr. Vince Remo. That's an inside joke, by the way. It's a roadmap here for us. And Jack just turned over the healthcare information management roadmap that would go all the way from 2028. We've been doing this exercise since 2004. I'll throw you the first question, Vince, if you don't mind. What's different from this particular roadmap?
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. What's different?
So, before you made the transition from the maritime industry to healthcare information, what is different from this particular roadmap?
Well, I guess we have built an industry, a subsector, the healthcare information management subsector, over the last 20 years. And we have come to a good figure of 160,000 FTEs and $3.3 billion industry. And then now we are trying to double that in the next 6 years. First and foremost, that target may be ambitious, but we're foreseeing that it can happen. So that's one thing that I can say. It's different because it's not going to be the long journey that we have done so far, but rather we'll go leaps and bounds to make that happen. Another thing is that in the past, I mean, we built this industry based on the demands, meaning it's more of the buyer of the service, the U.S. as a buyer of the service, that actually pursued how they can do things differently and ended up, well, of course, with our cooperation, ended up putting up this industry in the Philippines. Now it's going to be different. It's going to be from our side trying to pitch our services, our solutions, our capabilities to the world to make sure that we are known and as a result, build up this industry to double its size in the next 6 years.
So a more proactive approach is what
Definitely.
I'm hearing here. No? And
Definitely.
pretty much what Jeff Williams was talking about a while ago.
Right,
correct?
right, definitely.
Correct. So I have a curveball here for Jack. Before we hand over the mic to Jack, no, a disclaimer for everyone here present and those that are seeing this online, no. There is no truth to the rumor that Jack Madrid is the basis of the character for the animated movie Up. Okay, there's no truth to that. Okay, Jack. Happy birthday, first and foremost. Happy birthday. Could we all just sing a very short happy birthday for Jack? Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much, JDL.
So here's the question. Among all of the subsectors that the IBPAP umbrella is actually involved with, healthcare information is the only vertical across several horizontals. So what's the difficulty right now in managing this particular industry as opposed to, let's say, the BPO space or the back office or the software industry?
Well, HIMAP and the healthcare vertical, I believe, is the most promising of all the verticals. And I say this because it plays to the inherent strength of our workforce and our country. So I think just as our industry was built on the bedrock of the world-class Filipino communication skills and empathy, I think we have in healthcare the foundation of building and playing to the strength of the potential workforce that have been delivering healthcare services to global citizens all over the world. So I think it's a very natural vertical that I think it really does naturally cut across all the entire industry. So and I think we really need to double down on this strength. But the whole world knows that the best agents in the world are from our country. And there is no reason that we cannot earn that same reputation for the healthcare sector across different functionalities. So I'm really very optimistic that Vince will the ambitious goal.
A long time, no? Ever since, even before when HIMAP was not yet in existence, no? Ms. Beng Coronel is here. I think Beng was only 24 years old then when she invited me to be the host of the MITIHAPI, no? The Medical Transcription Industry Association of the Philippines. You guys have that notoriety of having the longest industry association name. Are you guys aware of that? But at any rate, I've seen the transition, and right now, Jack, what you're saying is that aside from the vanilla flavored, ICT services that the country could actually offer to the entire globe, this could be a very huge differentiator for our country. Correct. Thank you for that answer. Now, talking about that, I'm not going to talk about the outfit of the day, Emmy. Okay, but the DICT has been a very staunch supporter of the industry, no? Since its humble beginnings, no? Under the office of the President, I think it was called CICT then, and then the OST ICTO, and then eventually became a department thanks also to the help of the private sector, no? In pushing government to realize a department specifically for ICT services. Again, Jack was talking about we have the talent already. And I know that you just came from Mindanao also yesterday, right? And that was a celebration of the online workers that we had, correct? But at the same time, this particular industry is more or less not susceptible to individual work, primarily because of the requisites of the industry. My question, Emmy, is, what are some of the DICT programs that are helping the pipeline of talent for the healthcare information management industry?
Thank you, JDL. But first of all, let me congratulate and thank HIMAP. I've spent my life for the past 15 years, my God, ganun ako katanda, supporting the industry. So you're right. So since we were commissioned on ICT under PGMA to DOST ICTO and now to DICT, and I'm actually very glad that I've seen that journey together with you. Because at the time, as part of a junior staff, now...
Nandamay ka pa, ha?
Yes. And actually, the good thing about the creation of DICT is that it even strengthened and institutionalized the support of the DICT. And I think unknown to many that equally important, because when you talk about DICT, you always talk about connectivity, but equally important is another mandate, which is ICT industry development. And basically, that's the reason for being of our bureau, which I head. And full force yung team ko dito. Hi to my ICT Industry Development Bureau staff team. They're all here. So, yeah, that's basically a reason for being, because one of the key missions of the DICT is to ensure the growth and competitiveness of the ICT-enabled industries that will result to the creation of, more jobs. And having said that, so our bureau, we've been implementing programs for the IT/BPM industry, of course, for the HIMSS industry, for the many past years already. And you're talking about the talent development support. In fact, we have a separate bureau, which is the ICT Literacy and Competency Development Bureau, which is actually in charge of the upskilling and reskilling of the Filipino people, including the industry. And in fact, right now, we have an ASIC for upskilling and reskilling, just to emphasize that the DICT is really heavily supporting the talent of the Philippines. So that's why we have several initiatives. I would say I have the list here, but one major initiative of the DICT is the National Skilling Program in partnership with IBPAP and the subsector associations. Aside from that, we also have our support in terms of the development of the Philippine Skills Framework to make sure that the talents that we produce by the academe, TESDA, CHEDEP, and the training institutions are actually relevant to the needs of the industry. And a lot more. Because when we talk of our support, this includes research. So thanks. We also have a support in terms of coming up with the talent mapping for the HIMSS industry, particularly requested by Ms. Beng here. And promotion, of course, every year we support the Philippine delegation to HIMSS in the US. And in terms of bringing the industry outside of the country, outside of Metro Manila, we're been implementing the Digital Cities Program in partnership again with IBPAP and the rest of the subsector associations. And a lot more.
And in all of these programs, healthcare always plays a very vital role, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So again, thank you DICT, from an industry that is very, very grateful for all of this support. Now I have to be formal, attorney. Attorney, so the ICT has been helping out in terms of capability building and talent development. And our Department of Trade and Industry, as well as the Board of Investments, is helping us in another angle, which is to invite more players into our ecosystem. And second is to incentivize players who are contributing to the investment promotions plan. So we've been lucky as an industry in total that the DTI has always had its sights on helping the IT-BPM industry. But what is government's view on healthcare information in particular? Because if we look at the strategic investment promotions plan now, it actually has several touch points with healthcare information, both from a technology angle and from a healthcare angle. So please, Attorney, you may have the stand.
Thank you, Jonathan. First of all, I'd like to congratulate HIMAP for the success of this HIMSCON 2020. And thank you for the invitation as well. Jonathan, let me first point this out straight. The DTI-BOI has been one of the pioneers in the establishment of the IT-BPM sector in general. Now for the HIMAP, just to be very specific on healthcare, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have made a very special entry for telecare and telemedicine to be part of the SIPP. And as stated, IT-BPM, specifically creative industries and knowledge base, which includes telemedicine, telehealth, has always been a mainstay in our SIPP. And now for higher technologies, they can even go beyond Tier 1. Tier 1 is the 4 years, and then Tier 3, which is the highest incentives, could even go beyond the 4 years. Income tax holiday, which may extend up to 6 years. Yeah. In addition to that, initiatives that we are having, currently we have a MOU with the CHED on national skills mapping. So now we are again partnering with institutions, with universities to look into the gaps for skills. I've heard everyone talk about skills upgrading, retooling, reskilling. All of this we have already taken into account. Indeed, I think one of the pioneers also for IT-BPM industries here, Editech, used to be an executive director. One of the foundation that we had when we created the IT-BPM sector is to touch base with, at that time I think it was DEX, or now that CHED, to ensure that we have sufficient talent pool. And beyond that now, what we are doing is, again, identifying areas. So while if we will need more on telecare, telemedicine, then we have to work with these universities to have more of those courses. And then another initiative that we're also having is, of course, it's game development, but, well, it's not directly on health, but essentially it's more on the creativity, looking into the innovativeness of the sector. So it could border as well to healthcare. And of course, another is we are also formulating the AI, the artificial intelligence roadmap. And you know that this would actually, we need to be in sync with the rapid changing times for technological adoption and competitiveness. All of this, the DTI-BOI is doing right now. And again, as always, we have always been supportive of the IT-BPM, and now we see with what happened with COVID-19, we see the importance of telemedicine, telehealth, so we are rest assured that DTI-BOI would always support HIMAP and IT-BPM.
Very, very reassuring. Thank you very much, Attorney. No. I once had the honor of serving as the president of the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines. You know, the things that we always propagate, no, is we need to create magic. Gas-gas na yan, no? But I'm going to I'm going to use it again, making academe, government, industry collaborate. In fact, I think it would have been nice if we had somebody from the academic sector be represented in this, because apparently, as we develop the market, we also need to develop the talent that's going to support that particular market in its most simplest form. So I get the chance to actually talk to these people anytime that I want. But I'm pretty sure that there are people here in this audience that would like to ask or clarify particular things about the industry. Nothing personal lang, no? Nothing personal about, wala attorney, no? Hindi pwede. So, but if those of you would want to ask our audience certain questions about the industry, about the roadmap, and about the entities that they're representing, please just raise your hand, and if I could ask the organizers to provide microphones for those who have questions for our panelists. Nevertheless, here's another. We have one question over there. Could we get one microphone? So please state your name, your company, your age, vital statistics, blood pressure. No. Just your name and your company, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carlo Villanueva from Accenture, and this is a question both for the government sector, but primarily for the industry that we're part of. Talent management and the talent challenge, the talent gap. This is a recurring theme since day one. Earlier, there was a focus on the value proposition. Those are all really good things, but there's been discussion as well that poaching really happens. So what can the industry, primarily the industry, what can it do to protect and prevent it or minimize and mitigate while we improve on our value proposition and our retention strategies and all that?
Vince, would you like to take a stab at this?
Okay. First and foremost, thank you for that question. And second, I'd also like to say that we are also a victim of poaching. Sorry, as a company. Shout out to my team there, AWS team. Hello. All right. Having said that, of course, as a company, each and every company would have their own programs, their own EVPs. But as an industry, even with our company is also a member of PSIA, by the way, and in PSIA, there's a silent code among companies, among member companies, to cooperate and as much as possible avoid, meaning poaching from one another, unless it's really unavoidable. And that's also something that, as a culture in the organization within HIMAP, that's what we at the Board of Trustees, that's what we're trying to develop. And so far as we have conducted the road shows in the US, for example, it's a good example of how we were able to work together. We were able to promote one another's business. We know what each and every company would do, would be capable of. And at the same time, we know what we are capable of. So we sell the capabilities first as Philippines, and next is as our own company. So that's secondary. So we are, as HIMAP, that's what we're trying to build on. No? It's a work in progress, by the way, and I hope that our friends from Accenture would really join us. You're a very strong force in the industry, and I hope that, and I very much appreciate the cooperation that you showed us, especially in this HIMSCON. Very appreciative of that. And I hope that we continue to do that. All members of HIMAP, regardless of what business we are in, the pie and the business opportunity is really great. That there's really a lot of ways to collaborate. Even in the talent side, sorry, this may take a bit long. Even on the talent side, even if we are competing for talent, maybe instead of competing for talent, we could approach it in a way that we could collaborate instead of getting people from one another. Let's share. It's like the pie is very big, that we can always take a slice at it. We'll all be full, and there's still a lot to be left out there. So at HIMAP, finally, HIMAP, what we want to do is really to steer up this industry in a more collaborative way, starting with, of course, all the HIMAP member companies.
I very much agree with what Vince said, but I guess on my side representing IBPAP, I do have some words to say, and I think targets of poaching. I'm referring to companies and employers. I think you need to get comfortable that that's not quite going to go away, and that just evidences the raging war for talent and how competitive the landscape is. So you have to get comfortable with that. And I think it represents an opportunity for you to strengthen your culture so that you don't lose people at the end of the day. But I also have something to say to those who are poachers. And I think your reputation is at stake. And I think that as big an industry as we are, we all know who does the right thing and who does the wrong thing. And word gets around, and if that's why you want your brand to be known, then that's a risk that you're taking. My team and I hear about poaching all the time, and there's different kinds. Some are better than others, some are more subtle than others. But we do hear about it, and it's just not good for your brand. And if you want to continue to hire good people, then you have to take care of your brand. Because at the end of the day, it's the culture that people join or leave.
Thank you for the inputs, Vince and Jack. I'm not supposed to be contributing because I'm supposed to be the boy abunda for this session, but apparently I'm also wearing a PSIA hat, and there are just two things that I'd like to advise to all the ICT companies that are out there, healthcare or otherwise. Get associated, because that's when the conversations happen, and then get as much information. If you look at the numbers, if you really strongly look at the numbers of nurses and doctors and medical and allied professionals that we produce, as well as the computer science and IT graduates that we produce year on year, we're not going to have any problems with poaching if 100% are actually hireable. So we have to address the issue as well. How many doctors and nurses do we graduate every year? For the Software Industry Association, it's about 120, 130. And for the PSIA, I get all of these nice phone calls from country managers saying, hey, this company started, poaching people from my company as well, etc. Ms. Ben Coronel, who's been insisting since 3 years ago that she's already retired, I still get those phone calls from her now saying, hey, is this happening now in the industry? And oftentimes, it gets resolved by picking up the phone and talking to these country managers and these presidents and saying, hey, you know what? I got this report. I need to give you a slap on the wrist. Please talk to your recruitment team if it's possible not to do this, because it's not only destroying this particular company but the entire industry. So conversation, and it's nice that we're all here. Some of us have been here for too damn long, right? 20 years or so. But I guess, communications and, getting informed is a very good tool to actually combat this. Sir, are you raising your hand, sir? And you're in table number 8, so I'm assuming you're also from Accenture. Correct.
Hello, my name is Donald Villanueva, and we're from Accenture. So my question is just a follow-up, right? So it was mentioned that this was, given our trend in terms of our market, in terms of the clinical space, right? So we say that we have enough graduate, and yet we're still seeing a gap in terms of our supply, right? So if our agriculture industry will have a farm-to-market approach, right? So how can we apply that to our industry, and how we can strengthen that, right? Put structure so it can sustain the growth that we're projecting in the next decade. I think probably, from the government side, also from the team, can help clarify that for us.
Thank you. So earlier I mentioned that one also of the mandates of DICT is talent capability development. That's why we have a separate bureau taking care of the upskilling and reskilling. However, I would like to say that it should be a whole of nation, that even whole of government approach. It's actually good that now TESDA, DepEd, SHED, and DICT, because that's also our mandate, are talking. In fact, I mentioned earlier regarding the development of the
Add
Philippine
DTI and
skills.
DOST as well. I think,
yes,
you know,
DTI and DOST. In terms of putting up, because we know that that's one of the challenges right now. I mean, we've been talking about it for many years already. But I would say that the government agencies are also stepping up. So now there's actually a council that was created to make sure that the needs of the industry will be able to be, of course, to be helped with the government. So I mentioned earlier about the development of the Philippine Skills Framework. So that framework should be industry-driven. So that's why we're calling on the industry here to actively participate, because that framework should actually define the courses, the curriculum that will be actually developed by CHED, DepEd, TESDA, and the academic institutions.
Emmy, who will be the lead agency for the skills
There's
framework?
a council. So there's a Philippine Skills Framework Council led by DTI, PTTC. But in terms, so there are 7 sectors that have been identified, and one is the IT-BPM sector. In terms of leading the development of the for the IT-BPM sector skills framework is the DICT, particularly our bureau. So we've been talking to IBPAP and the different subsector associations to be able to come up, develop that framework. But you know, it needs a lot of cooperation. I know the time is very critical.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have identified 5, so contact center, health information management, software development, AI and analytics, of course, health information management. So these are the 5 sectors that will be where the Philippine Skills Framework for those sectors will be developed, and we hope to start that soon. For the creative industry, game development and animation are been done already by the DTI. So I know we need a lot of people because we need a lot of focus group discussions, giving inputs to that particular framework. So we need the support of the industry. Otherwise, again, it will be government-driven. We have to make it an industry-driven, because at the end of the day, you'd say you need it, right? So please help us in really crafting that very relevant framework for the entire industry.
Thank you, Emmy. No? And again, that's very reassuring that if there's one lesson that we all learned from the pandemic is that everybody plays well now, right? Including the academic institutions. They're listening to industry. Government has more appreciation of, you know, industry's movement and industry's contribution. And hopefully this renewed, you know, discussion, spirit of discussion is going to push us faster towards where we need to be. Attorney, would you like to add anything?
Just to add to the very comprehensive statement already of the ICT. So as you can see, the government just lays down the foundation, and we have all the foundation already laid down to address this. In addition, we have always placed upskilling, training as part of the enhanced deduction for purposes of incentives. So you could also use your own company to to develop your people, and such will be part of the incentive package under Create actually. It has always been there. It's part of enhanced deduction, which you could use for SEIT. So I'm just saying this because, as again, poaching or however you look at it, it's also happening in government. So it's everywhere. So you just know how to treat your people kindly, I guess. And of course, as stated by Shearwater, compensation and benefits would also be one thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney. Just as an example, Emmy used to be with the DTI before, and now she's with the DIC. No, there's no poaching involved, no. There's no poaching involved. There's this very, very small gentleman who would like to ask a question way back. I wouldn't have seen him if he wasn't this big, no? So, Mr. Williams, would you like to ask your questions now?
There we go. Okay, working. Yeah, my name is Jeff, longtime listener, first-time caller. No. But a question I wanted to bring up. So we've done roadmaps in the past. You know, I've been with this industry for a long time. And there's been some great things that were started and then kind of just fizzled out. And I'm asking, are we looking to bring them back now? Technical working groups, that was done 2 roadmaps back, right? A roadmap before that, the SMP protocols. You know, it's one thing, I'd love to hear what I'm hearing from government, great initiatives, but if our industry is not lockstep with them and helping, you know, they're going to die too, right? So is something in this roadmap to bring the SMP back? You know, are there any technical working groups on our business side to get groups to work with government?
So, Jack, this is the first roadmap. So allow me to actually just put in a couple of things. We have always been found wanting when it comes to continuity of the programs across the different roadmaps. And this time around, I think there are governance mechanisms that are placed for Roadmap 2028, which I hope, you know, would solve this particular challenge in terms of continuity of programs. Jack, would you like to add more to that?
Jeff, that was a really timely question. At this point in time, you know, we are finalizing the composition of the governance teams and the implementation teams. Now, IBPAP obviously cannot do this alone, and so there has never been a more important time for the execution of the roadmap initiatives and projects to involve our partners in government, the partner associations, and as we will be finalizing the team composition in the next, you know, coming 1 or 2 weeks, we will carefully curate and ensure that the individuals that we will be working with have the availability, the commitment, and the passion to really execute on the plans ahead. And I think I'm not sure what happened in the past. Certainly, this time, because no one group can do it alone. It will need the willpower of everyone in this room and everyone outside this room to get what we want, to get our country deserves. But I think we're off to a good start because I think, you know, the roadmap, if you guys have had a chance to read it, I encourage you to do so. It is a very comprehensive, but we have built in some calibration mechanisms so that we get to review our progress, you know, quarterly, annually, and we will be tracking how we get there, because we have a very ambitious goal. And we chose to publish the 1 million figure because that has captured a lot of attention. But I will caution everyone to say that if we do only a half-decent job, then that number will be significantly less. But that is going to be a pity because the mismatch in talent, supply, and demand has never been as wide as it is today. And this is ours to lose. We will always be big. But there has never been really, I keep saying this, a more important time for the Philippines to take full advantage of its demographic advantage. And for the first time in our history, we really, truly have that advantage because we have a young and talented population. We just need to get them employable. Not an easy task, but again, this is what we will be doing in the next 6 years.
Thank you, Jack. And if you appreciate the entire totality of the roadmap, it's all guns blazing. We're talking about issues that we are currently facing on the regulation side, but we're also talking about the, you know, increasing the supply side. So it's a multiple-barreled shotgun that we're trying to do now. In fact, there's a question from Zoom that basically is asking, do you think that a cease and desist order to hire in another healthcare company is lawful, considering that there is only a limited number of coders in the market? Should there be ready employees leaving the organization? should we treat that employees leaving the organization as something which is normal? I'm just paraphrasing here. So please check me on my legal attorney because I have my legal's a little bit rusty, but legally you cannot stop anyone from gainful employment, right? So that's the rule of thumb. But at the same time, it's important that companies themselves are part of the ecosystem so that we could begin talking about rules of engagement. That's pretty much how it's going to be. This panel discussion is not going to be complete without an input or a question from the Grand Dam of Software and the chairperson of HIMAP. Now, Beng, you were raising your hands a while ago. Yes. Could we provide a microphone for Ms. Beng? Age before beauty, always. Okay. So.
Actually, it's a reaction from the questions and discussion. Actually, as Jack mentioned, well, poaching is here to stay, right? So I think the call out to our industry is really in terms of increasing the supply, in terms of entrance to our industry. And the sad part is it's a very specialized industry. So you have to have all those medical professionals really getting interested to our alternative careers that we offer. So I guess the first thing is really to increase the supply. And there has really been a drop in terms of the counts of nurses, the enrollment. And that was brought about by, well, the problems that we have had in the past. Wherein there was really an oversupply of nurses. Everybody wants to go to the US or other parts of the world. So they enrolled, and it was ultra high in terms of nurses that we were trying out. Unfortunately, because of the ban or the visa requirements, there was a drop in terms of takeout. So what happened was we have a lot of unemployed nurses. And so nobody wanted anywhere to, well, enroll as nurses. So now I think increase the counts of entrants or enrollees to the medical careers. And at the same time, of course, include additional training. And it's a good thing that we have our government representatives here from BOI stating that now companies can actually enroll their training and actually get, well, funding or at least tax rebates, etc. Because that's one of the things that I guess companies would like to make sure, no? Because they invest in terms of training, and lo and behold, when they're mature enough, you get companies poaching. And of course, the other one is the training, upskilling that the ICT has mentioned. Because I guess for small SMEs, small, medium enterprises, I guess it's very difficult. You hire, what, max 10, and then after 2 years, it's wiped out, no? So I guess we really have to turn, well, we have to really increase the count of people coming or getting into our, and so I guess creating awareness. We missed that road shows or yeah, the thing that the ICT had before, where we do the rounds of all the provinces and speak about your industry, so that at least you can really excite them, so that they can take on the careers that we're offering. Because at the end of the day, yeah, what they want is a job after graduation. So I think that's those are the additional things. And companies, I think that's part of the, yeah, it's sad to say that we have to accept the fact that there is poaching. And of course, we can have enemies for all our lives, but then what happens, no? So I think it's really preparing. And for all you know, it's part of, well, reducing your cost as well. I guess for some companies, they already anticipate a certain level of attrition, because at a certain point when everybody becomes so expensive, you really try to really make sure that the average cost of your employees becomes well, competitive enough for you to run your business. So that's just my additional input.
Judy, would you like to?
Thank you, Ms. Beng. So, I'm Judy Wisenhunt. Okay, I'm representing the HIMAP group here. So, this is not a reaction, but more of an appeal. Okay, appeal to the government, especially the ICT and EMB. They've been helping HIMAP for so many years now. But building capabilities of our talent pool in the Philippines is one of the mission of HIMAP. We would like to really build the capabilities so that we can avoid the poaching. However, we know for a fact that healthcare has so many expertise and specialization, and it requires certifications to have a standard certification based on the US or Australia and other countries. So in this case, we would like to appeal to the ICT to at least allocate amount that is really be able to sustain the requirement of the industry. Because at this point, what we're experiencing, sorry, I'm not putting you on the spot, Miss Emmy, but for the last, I think we've been doing this for the last 6-7 years now. Unfortunately, what we're doing is just like a small amount, a small group. What we need here, and if you read the HIMAP road, the HIMSS roadmap, you'll see it's not just 1,000 or 2,000, or it's not just medical coders. We have different domains, we have different expertise that we require in the industry. For us to be able to meet that target, we need the talent pool to be capable of doing those requirements. So I'm giving you, it's in your hands now, the government, because the private sector, they've been doing it. But of course, how about the SMEs? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So apparently, I've been given the warning that we need to wrap up. But I could go on and on and on with this particular panel, even if you give me 3 more days. But unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. What we are now hearing and what we're witnessing is that there's a much healthier conversation that's going on with the various stakeholders in this particular sector of the ICT industry. And we've got our work cut out for us, obviously. But I'd like to give an opportunity for our panelists to actually give their parting words. So, Emmy, would you like to start?
Thank you, JDL. Before, I would like to respond to Ms. Beng and
May hugot,
Ms.
no?
Judy.
Ayaw ni Emmy.
Because we
Ayaw ni
have
Emmy.
exciting actually initiatives responding to the 2 requests of Ms. Beng and Ms. Judy. First, yes, we know that we've been, JDL, you've been part of that. Jeff, we've been, like for many years, we've gone to all cities of the country promoting, creating awareness about the BPO industry. And I think we've been successful because now we have 26 cities outside of Metro Manila employing 400,000 jobs from the 1.5 current jobs that we have right now. So yes, so my team is here. We will definitely continue doing that. In fact, for the past 2 years, because of the COVID pandemic, we've done online careerness fairs in partnership with IBPAP. And in fact, we have 8 ambassadors, ITBP ambassadors, 12 ambassadors, and one of them is Gail. Your vice president is one of the ITBP ambassadors helping the government, the DICT, in terms of promoting the BPO industry outside of Metro Manila. And yes, we'll continue to do that. In fact, what we will do right now in partnership with IBPAP is for digital cities to first identify their niche. When we've conducted the ITBPM roadshows, all those are major general information. But what we'd like to do is to help the cities identify their niche. And if it's about, say, Zamboanga wants to develop the city as a HIMSS destination, or what's the other city that just declared?
Region 6
your
just declared
region, then
themselves
definitely
as
we will,
ourselves
yes,
as the
so we'll
healthcare
bring
information
HIMSS
management
roadshow.
capital of the world.
Yeah, so we'll bring HIMSS Roadshow awareness, just focus on the HIMSS industry to Bacolod or to Region 6 to Zamboanga. So that's being done currently together with IBP and the subsector associations. Ma'am, in terms of upskilling, reskilling, I know because we've partnered before and that has been a very successful scholarship program where we had three scholarships where after graduation, like there was a 6-month training on medical coding, and all of these graduates, even before they joined the graduation, a lot of companies were there already offering jobs, and we want to scale that up. Now we have that national upscale skilling project, so that's the response to your request, Miss Judy.
Just
Judy,
to avoid the tension in the room, we're all friends here, okay? So there's no animosity between, in fact, these two have been working together for a long time already. Juday pa pangalan nito, we're already working. No? It's Judy now, so it's promoted.
JDL, before I give this mic to Vince. No,
You're
I
going
would
to
like
give it to Vince,
emphasize,
Okay.
No, this is my first time to join HIMSCON because for many years, was the face of the industry. And I would like to say to greet my mentor, my boss, for
Where is he?
Because for
Former
many
Undersecretary
years,
Monchito Ibrahim, where are you? Where are you?
he's there.
Could you please stand up to be recognized? Happy birthday also. Could we sing happy birthday to Mon? Happy birthday to you.
So for many years, he has been the face of the industry.
So thank you, Emmy.
Thanks.
Now, a big round of applause for DICT's Emmy Lou Delphin. Vince, would you want to, maybe you should have the final word since you're the one paying for drinks later, okay? So, attorney?
Okay, the way we see it, HIMSS would be more than ever, the demand would be an upswing. And as stated at my initial statement, the DTI-BOI will always be a partner of ITBPAP and HIMAP. Thank you.
Paano po ang PSIA, ma'am? Hindi ko kami kasama.
Kasama kayo.
Sige lang, sorry. For my selfish angle, I have to put that in. Thank you, attorney. No? A big round of applause for Attorney Warch of DTI BOI. Jack, would you...
I talked about the demographic advantage of our country. And I'm glad that Emmy brought up digital cities, because that's the other secret weapon of our country, the countryside. A few years ago, we were only at 25, maybe 26% of our employee workforce outside Metro Manila. But accelerated by the pandemic, we are now at 31% of our workforce. And that's 31% of a bigger base. And so that just shows you the potential that can be unleashed if we get our act together. And I think one of the things that no one has really talked about our employee workforce is how diverse we are. With over half of our workforce being women, that is something that no other IT-BPM region can match. And that's a big deal. Second, we have 25 cities, tens and tens of provinces, each with their own unique talent pools and advantages that we need to take advantage of. And I think the opportunity is ours for the taking. And I think we owe it to our country to just take this to heart. I'm intimidated by the task at hand, but I'm also optimistic because we are a nation of survivors. We have survived many worse situations, both economic and not economic, physical disasters. No other country has been as successful as we are in navigating through those crises. And I think that that's my reason for optimism. And but as I said earlier, it'll take the effort of each and every one of us here to make this happen. Thank you very much, HIMAP.
So let's show our gratitude to the President and CEO of IBPAP, Mr. Jack Madrid. Last but not the least, the Captain, Mr. Vince Remo. Vince, could you please share your parting words?
All right. Coming to this panel, I was actually I'm thinking, how would this go, other than the jokes of JDL? All right, I know that for sure. But I was thinking, how would this play? And overall, I'm very pleased. I'm very satisfied with how the discussion went. Because at this point in time, I am now sure that there's a real partnership that's developing between the government side and the private sector. But of course, within the private sector, for us as members of HIMAP, we should also group together. Coming from the poaching issue, which is actually hurting our industry more than helping, I think something has to be done there. I'm very impressed with what Shearwater shared a while ago, that they have already had a successful partnership with the university. No? It's something that we may be able to institutionalize, but we can only do that with the help of our government partners, right? So those are the things that coming to HIMSCON, something that maybe we haven't really thought about, but coming to HIMSCON has brought us to think about these things, and maybe in our own companies, aside from improving on our EVPs, aside from improving our marketing initiatives, would be able to help us grow while coexisting, with one another, and as a result, bring the industry, in order to achieve, bring up the industry, improve our revenue, improve our FTEs, and the final result would be achieve Roadmap 2028. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause, please, for HIMAP President Mr. Vince Remo, and the conversation will definitely not stop here, as we have an industry to grow. But altogether, please let us show our gratitude to our panelists for this final panel discussion for HIMSCON. Once again, congratulations to everyone who's made this event possible. Once again, a big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Please stay on the stage for a photo op, please. Again, we are asking our panelists and moderators to please stay on stage while we have a photo opportunity with them. Jonathan De Luzuriaga, the president of PSIA, and of course our panelist Vincent Remo, president of HIMAP, Jack Madrid, president of IBPAP, attorney Marjorie Ramos Samaniego, governor DTI BOI, Emily Lou Delphin, director ICT Industry Development Bureau DICT. Thank you very much to these wonderful panelists and moderator. And of course I will ask the president of HIMAP to stay as well, Mr. Vincent Remo, as he will give us the closing remarks and just the key takeaways for the past 3 days.
All right, so a lot of exposure for me today. So once again, good afternoon, and well, it's been 3 days, right? 2 days virtual, and today is hybrid. So hi again to those who are joining us virtually. I'm asked to...
Hello everyone, may we request for everyone who's still around to please turn on your cameras. Thank you.
Let me tell you just the personal experiences that I've had attending HIMSCON. Right? I think we could summarize it in 3 ways. I have identified opportunities. I have seen the challenges, and I was able to validate that it's not only our company who's really into those challenges. Everybody is in the same boat. Everyone here is sharing the same issue. Some have made some progress in terms of addressing them. Some are still on the way. And third is, we have this potential for
once again, everyone, we are requesting for those who are still around to please turn on your cameras.
My team can attest that I always look at figures. So, 285,000 FTEs, $6.7 billion industry for the subsector in the year 2028. How do we make this happen? My job here for today is to call everyone to action. How can we make this happen? How do we work together to make this happen? On day one, we were able to explore the opportunities. We know that US is our main market, but now we know that Asia, Australia, Europe also exists. Even if there's language barrier for most of these countries, there are the so-called language agnostic processes or scope that we may be able to cover. And there's also ways of circumventing or doing a workaround to address the language barrier by partnering, on the other hand, with those companies. How do we do that? We have access to those markets. We have our friends from the DTI, our trade representatives. You've attended most of the sessions, I guess, and they are very, very helpful. And in fact, over the years, they have helped us. BOI, always with us when we go to the United States. Now, if HIMAP were to somehow organize a team, a roadshow, let's say to Europe, to Australia, we already have people on the ground who will survey the area for us and tell us where we should go. Those are opportunities which, at this HIMSCON, I was able to somehow validate. And for us, we already have like a foot on the door because we have people who would be able to help us. The challenges still lie because of okay, is it dinner time? Sorry. Okay. The challenges still lie ahead because of talent, right? But as I said during the panel, there are ways to address it, and some are already doing it. Now we just have to institutionalize it, again, with the partnership with our government, with our friends from the government. We're always there to support us. I'm happy to announce that, well, I mentioned DTI, BOI. The ICT is always there for us, right? The likes of TESDA also partnering with us for the skilling up program, upskilling program, is something that we are very fortunate enough, particularly in the HIMS subsector. And we should really take advantage of that. Now, I'm thinking, this is not yet, I haven't brought this up to the Board of Trustees, but after attending this, I'm now thinking of forming a special, maybe a task team, maybe an interest group, like the European Market Interest Group, Asian Market Interest Group, something to that effect. And I want to call on the member companies and hope that you would join us. I would call on this. Maybe Cherry has to take note of this because I might forget it. No? Cherry, our ED, has to remind me of this. But I think this is the way for us to open up new opportunities. Because as HIMAP, our vision is to promote the Philippines to become a preferred destination for HIMS outsourcing services globally. And we've been in the United States. Now we must go global, right? In terms of opportunities, that's the one. In terms of talent, let's work together to make this happen. We depend on the government for some support. But at the same time, there are good ideas which you are already practicing in your respective companies. I hope we could share those good practices. Of course, except the trade secrets, but the good practices, of course, right? We all have our trade secrets, but I guess the best practices can be shared, right? Let's work together because our target is, well, it has been said, it's an ambitious target. But let's not focus on the target. Let's focus on the journey. Is it possible? Can we really go there? Can we really achieve it? And I guess the answer is yes. And as mentioned this morning, though we cannot predict the future, we can invent it. And that's exactly what this year's theme is. HIMS Reimagined. I hope that these 3 days has been very fruitful for all of you as it has been for me. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
much, President of HIMAP, Mr. Vincent Remo. What an exciting last closing panel, right? And it really goes to show that there's so much to talk about. We really appreciated how we got to ask our questions. This is something that we've seen even over Zoom, a lot of questions that they really wanted to ask. It was so engaging, guys, and I really want to thank you for your participation. I want to show you guys here on the screen, and I'm going to ask the people who are joining us on Zoom. We peaked at around almost 50 a while ago, and now a couple of people already dropped off the call, but we're going to show them here on the center LED if they're ready. Because they're going to say hi to us. Guys, they're going to say hello, people from the Zoom. We're asking you to please turn on your cameras. That way you can say hi to the people that are here with us in Marquee Hall. So I'm asking, again, the people inside Zoom to turn on your cameras and just say hello to us and wave to the cameras. I remember Rishi Pradano, he's joining us online, wonderful. Eden Kagiat, Chris Paras, Rosario Bradbury, I'm guessing, M. Glyceria, we're asking you to please turn on your cameras. Make sure you have your tops on. We've had some of that happen, right? Please make sure you have your top on. Okay, because we really want to say hi to you. Okay, we're gonna figure that out. Okay. So done? Okay, so there you go, guys. Anyway, that concludes HIMSCON, the HIMSS Conference 2022. We want to thank you guys, but please, it was obvious. We need more time for conversation, and you're going to have exactly that. We're going to give you around 45 minutes to just go around the room and continue these wonderful conversations that you've already started, or for some of you that haven't, please feel free to go around the room and talk to these people that we haven't seen in a while, right? And reconnect or connect with people. I know it can be helpful for our businesses to who to reconnect with, and also reminding you of that raffle draw that we're doing later on. We currently have 72 names already, so if you want to add your names, we still have that fishbowl right up at the back for you to include your names for our raffle later on. We'll see you back here at 5 o'clock, and then we'll start with the awards, the HIMAP Awards night. Again, encouraging you to have conversation here this afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I will see you. The BOTs. Yes, can I call on the Board of Trustees to come here on stage? We want to have our photos taken with you all. Again, we want to call on the Board of Trustees to come up, please, here on stage so we can have your photo taken. Yes, the HIMAP Awards coming up tonight. I'd like to call on, please, the Board of Trustees, Ms. Ben Coronel, Ms. Judy Weisenhunt. I know Gail is also here.
I'd like to call on Ms. Lara Cuesta as well on stage. Anshum, Board of Trustees, who else? Judy, Gail. All right.
We know Ms. Lara is here. If you're still here in the room, we'd like to call you up here on stage. Oh, she's in the photo booth already, Ms. Lara Costa. All right, please wave for the video. There you go. All right, once again, please enjoy the conversations. Please be back after 45 minutes. If I'm looking at my time, we will begin the HIMAP Awards at 5:15 p.m.
Can we call on the Secretariat, Sherry and Kathy? Please join us on stage. The Marketing Committee, JL, and for the BOTs, please stay. Ansho, please stay. Kathy, Cherry, JL, Lara, and the Hakbang team, join us. And we would like to thank hakbang.ph for being our events organizer for the past 2 years. Can we please give them a round of applause? Thank you. Charity, where is Kathy? There she is. JL, where is JL? JL Botor, Marketing Committee. There he is. And we will begin the open bar at 5 o'clock.
We're also announcing the open bar will be open at 5 p.m. It's been an amazing 3 days. Let's get this party already started. 5 a.m. That open bar begins already. Please enjoy the overflowing drinks, overflowing food, and what's best, we are surrounded by the best company as well this afternoon. We'll see you back here at 5:15, but again, please feel free to mingle with one another.